Sacred Places, the Pantheist Experience, the show where we explore the philosophy of pantheism and the personal experience of nature-centered spirituality. I'm your host, Pafo Ortiz, founder of Biopantheism, the ethics-based codification of pantheism that stresses the importance of biological life and seeks a deeper, more meaningful relationship with the eminent and emergent divinity of nature we call the Omnia. We are all connected, and we are all one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Places, the Pantheist Experience, a show where we explore pantheism, veganism, atheism, religion, philosophy, science, and everything in between. I'm here now with my good friend Clint Grierson, and what we're going to talk about today is the vital and essential connection that he and a few others like myself have made between veganism and pantheism. Essentially, that veganism is the natural progression of pantheistic thought. And I've talked about this many, many times on other shows, but I've yet to really explore it on my own show. And I want to devote the next at least 2.5 hours, if we can, to this subject, because I think it's extremely important and it's highly significant with these two movements, pantheism being generally a misunderstood and unknown, burgeoning form of naturalistic spirituality, and veganism being a very powerful, influential social justice movement that has taken on many forms. It can be trendy, it can be expressed with great conviction. It can be expressed in very sort of disruptive and what's the word? Disingenuous ways, perhaps, or ways that can appear very off-putting to most people. So what we want to talk about is the fundamental ethic of veganism and what it represents, and how there is this interplay, this overlap between veganism and pantheism. So go ahead, Clint. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience as a pantheist, and where you came from, what you're into, what you're all about, and what veganism means to you, and why these two philosophical movements, or these two sort of worldviews, these ethical perspectives, are really very, very much analogous and not incongruent at all, and the importance of maybe bringing them together into one unified system of thought.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I'll just give you a bit of a rundown of, my life, how I sort of became vegan. I guess, when I was around 19, I thought, vegetarianism was something that was good to do. Obviously I was compassionate and wanted to do the best thing by animals. So I thought eliminating meat from my diet was, a noble thing to do. And that lasted probably 3 years until, for some reason I thought that I wasn't healthy and I needed to eat fish again. And obviously, friends and family, you have all these influences, and I just kind of fell back into eating meat for a while, and didn't really think too much at the time about it, because, obviously it's eating meat is tradition and all your friends and family doing it. So I just kind of got caught up in it again. But around the same time, I was, researching a lot into different religions and sort of Eastern philosophies, and I was practicing meditation. So I was pretty clean, I was pretty healthy, and that, I'm not sure why, but for some reason when I started eating meat again, that clarity and that lucidity kind of left, I guess, for a little while. Looking back on it, I can kind of see why now. Now that I'm really clear-headed and I guess I'm kind of losing track here a bit, but fast forward a few years,
there's a significant point here that I've actually heard many times before. This connection with the idea of eating animal flesh and putting substances into our bodies that have experienced trauma. It's like you're taking that trauma into your own body, and there are many people in sort of Eastern circles, Eastern mysticism, that believe that that since the body, we should consider the body our temple and hold it sacred, and we shouldn't pollute it with anything, and that everything is sort of imbued and absorbs the energy around it, the energy of its experiences. So when you're consuming animal products, you're taking in that death, that trauma, that pain, that suffering, and so there could be something vibrationally going on there, like energetically.
Yeah, so, totally. And kind of looking back at that period of my life where I started eating meat again, I did, sort of go into a bit of a spiral. I had social anxiety. I was a little bit depressed. I was using substances and obviously eating all sorts of meat. And it took me a little while to sort of snap out of that. And I ended up having to sort of be medicated for depression, which did help. I was pretty hesitant to do that. But once I sort of got through the depression episode, and like you said, if you are eating meat, if you're eating the tortured body of a dead animal, bringing that into your system, you are going to have death and disease like inside of you, and
we
how that plays
now.
out.
We literally know that statistically and medically and scientifically that they are meat and animal byproducts, and animal products are carcinogenic, and they're the one of the most significant reasons for heart disease and osteoporosis and cancer and all these debilitating diseases that
definitely
we're taking on death, and we're sort of reaping what we sow. Many people, you could hear the people just contesting this and saying, "Hey, but we've eaten meat for thousands of years. That why all of a sudden now that's just pseudoscience and it's metaphysical stuff." But regardless, I mean, I'm not sure if I missed that, if you were saying that the depression and the emotional problems coincided at the same time, or they were like as a subsequent consequence.
I guess looking back at that time,
sort of
when I was vegetarian, I was quite happy and clear. I was still eating little bits of dairy and stuff, but compared to when I started eating meat again, I kind of just like spiraled, and my emotional and I guess my like mental clarity was down. My inspiration, motivation, energy levels, everything was down when I was
fascinating. I can attest to the idea. Let's see, I just ate like 5 potatoes, right? I just boiled a bunch of potatoes and I cooked some in the oven, and I feel really heavy, like I just ate a lot of that starchiness, Yeah. I was gonna say, I can attest to definitely when I used to eat meat, if I had a steak or a big burger or something, or just gorge myself, I would feel just my senses dulled. I would feel sluggish and heavy and just sick, and I could just feel my digestion, everything's slowing down. I felt that my metabolism was literally like struggling to try and digest and absorb the protein, the animal flesh, and that wasn't what I'm trying to say is I wasn't aware of what my food went through before it got to me. So this is a real physiological, sort of synergistic effect. Like you feel heavy and sluggish and tired, and it literally affects your health. So I can attest to that aspect of it. I never experienced the opposite as like what you're talking about, because I've never fallen back into it since I've pursued this form of spirituality, since I've been a pantheist. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I guess there was a time where I needed to work on getting that clarity and that mental happiness and joy back in my life. So I did start. I eliminated red meats, beef and lamb and those sort of things, and a lot of processed stuff. I started exercising. I was still eating a little bit of chicken back then, but then I decided to go vegetarian again, which was about seven years ago. And I noticed pretty much straight away that my emotional sort of happiness started going up again, and I was regaining like my sense of self. Almost like I was coming out of this dark chapter of my life, and it just like at the time I wasn't aware that it was because of the meat, but now that I have been vegan for almost 4 years, on top of being vegetarian for the 3 years in between, my mental clarity, my like inner peace, my happiness, my health is, it's probably like the best it's ever been. And it took me it took me one I guess health scare to completely go vegan.
So it looks like we just got Gaius. He just joined us. What's up, man?
Y'all hear me?
Hey, Gaius.
Yeah. Gaius, this is Clint. Gaius.
Okay, Hi, Clint.
Hey, Gaius. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, we were looking for you yesterday, man. Like, we wanted, like, Gaius really wanted to talk to you. He had a whole list of questions for me that I contemporaneously answered with great vigor. Yeah. But he also wanted to speak to you and get your take on it, because I actually said that you've been vegan longer than the rest of us.
Yes, sir.
And I think your veganism and your pantheism are almost like equally matched. They're like these, two sides of the same coin, and that's the beauty of this. What I really wanted to explore in this episode. But do you have more that you want to say, Clint?
Yeah.
And do you want to keep rolling with that, and then have Gaius ask you some of the questions that he wanted to ask you yesterday?
Yeah, sure. So I was just sort of getting to the point that where I actually switched to veganism from, I guess, being vegetarian. So there was a point where I was getting sort of pain in my sternum, which was due to like an injury I had when I was younger. So when I was eating dairy or drinking milk or having ice cream or something, I would get like a pain bone, which I guess it there's arthritis there, so it caused inflammation in the arthritis in my bone. And I started doing research into the effects of dairy on the human body, and like to my surprise, I was like, well, holy shit, there's so many like dangers and so many health issues that arise when you consume animal milks. So that was pretty much the point where I was like, shit, I'm going to take out dairy out of my diet for a few weeks and see how that works.
It's interesting how all this has kind of happened in stages. Like, it's happened very organically for you.
Yeah.
It wasn't like an overnight sort of thing that you just, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and I mean, this was like a very holistic thing. All these different aspects of your life and the trajectory there. You can see how step by step. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. There's definitely like certain points in my life which, looking back, I can see sort of bring me to that point. And the point where I ditched dairy was pretty significant, because after about 6 weeks without dairy, I noticed that the pain in my bone had completely gone. I'd have better movement in my arm, and I was like surprised, and I was happy that I wasn't having so much pain. So I guess that point there was where I became vegan without sort of knowing so much about the dairy industry or the practices of like large animal agriculture and factory farming. And by ditching milk and dairy, then it sort of made me look into like veganism then. So that's where I sort of started watching the documentaries, reading the like medical stuff about how animal products affect your body. And there wasn't an actual moment where I was like, I'm vegan now. It just something cemented in my mind. It wasn't actually a choice. It was just like how do you sort of describe it? It's just I just became what I actually had always been. So it was almost like
It's awesome that you say that, because that's actually how many pantheists describe once they've discovered pantheism. It's like this is what I always was. This is what I had always felt and believed, and I just didn't know there was a word for it. I didn't know there was a name for it. I had no idea. So it's interesting that you have the same experience.
So are you saying there's a word for that?
What's up? No, I'm saying that it's fascinating because your experience in discovering veganism is the same as what many people describe in discovering pantheism.
Yeah, well, that was pretty much the same way I came to pantheism as well.
So pantheism came first or after?
No, after. But
okay,
it was quite an organic.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was
go ahead.
I realized I was vegan first before I realized I was pantheist. But at the same time, looking back now, I was both my whole life. You know, I believed that nature was like God, or I always believed that, you know, compassion and empathy and love and non-violence is our core being. You know.
If your spirituality doesn't involve those things that you just mentioned, then your spirituality doesn't mean shit. If your religion is not fundamentally predicated on love and nonviolence and compassion and empathy and generosity and concern and for other life forms, then what good is it? Whether it's a philosophy, a religion, or whatever you call spiritual, that's your test right there.
Yeah, jump in.
Pafo, y'all may have already covered this, since I'm a little late. But
we actually just started. We just started about 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago.
As coincidentally today, I was talking online with my other vegan friend, Angie Delay, and she asked me, how long, because I was telling her about you. How long have you been a vegan? Because she's coming up on 3 years. She's about to have her 3-year anniversary of being a vegan. And I was just curious because I'm surprised I haven't asked you, and I'm surprised you haven't actually volunteered to tell me how long have you been a vegan, and how did you get introduced to it? Did you also start coming across the documentaries or have someone approach you?
Are you talking to me, guys, or Clint?
I'm talking about you, Pafo.
Oh, okay. Because actually, Clint he did just describe that. That's exactly
right.
What
right. Yeah, that's what gave me the idea. As well as
okay, for me, have you not read my article, Veganism and Pantheism?
No.
I completely spell it out there. I give the whole sort of chronology of it. Well, go do your homework and come back.
But in a nutshell, and also for the listeners, give
in a nutshell,
a quick little recap.
I will, and cut me off if I'm taking too long, because I have a tendency to do that. In a nutshell, because of my pantheism, specifically because of Biopan, because of my role as a leader in this movement, and in speaking with so many other pantheists, and in just trying so hard to establish this movement that is fundamentally based on a love and respect for life, and all these things that Clint mentioned, compassion, and just continuously speaking about the divinity of nature and how ethics and morality and how we should treat one another. I had always been an animal lover my whole life. I'd always felt closest to God and most in tune and in communion with whatever I termed as spiritual, outdoors, or in a field or on a beach or in the ocean, just engaging and interacting with nature. And I've always had pets my whole life. I've always been an animal lover. I've rescued so many sick and hurt, injured animals, and I was going to be a veterinarian when I was younger, or I would have been like a naturalist or like a wildlife photographer or zoologist or something. So there's always been that. I was sort of raised that way. My dad did canine, and we always had dogs. And so there was never a time where I didn't love animals. And once I had come to understand pantheism in a comprehensive way, I just recognized that, my love for animals and nature and the outdoors, it was just indicative of the fact that when we are interacting with animals, when we are exploring nature, we are in effect exploring God. We are looking into the eyes of a fellow being that is really another expression of the divine. So the point is, you can't talk about having a love and respect for nature, caring for the environment, sustainability, wanting to promote permaculture and all this, and then coming to the realization of what we're doing to these animals and what we're doing to the earth. And so by just from, I guess, supporting PETA, I never ate veal. I'd always been against animal experimentation, and for a long time, actually, it was Peter Moriarty who had kind of expressed to me the damage that's being done because of the beef industry, and I didn't really understand it at the time. But I was still eating hamburgers, when I met him, and he says, no, I don't eat red meat, because of what's going on and what it's doing to the planet and blah blah blah. He never said what it does to the animals. He never said what it does, what the cows are suffering. He just talked about sustainability. Okay, so the point is, through all this, I'm trying to make this succinct. Hold on, let me try harder. Through all this,
had he seen those? Had he seen those documentaries like Cowspiracy?
No. He had seen Cowspiracy, I think, later on. I tried to get him to watch Earthlings. I think he still hasn't watched it. But basically, I came to the realization that I would be a hypocrite if I continued to eat and consume meat, eggs, and dairy, because that's life, man. That's the divinity that I'm asking people to respect and honor. And this speciesism, this idea of human superiority and viewing other animals and other life forms as inferior, was everything that I was juxtaposed to everything that I represented. So let me see if I can make this personal. I felt guilty specifically about pigs. I thought pigs get it the worst, and I just always looked at the footage and the videos of little piglets and how beautiful they are and how innocent animals are. And then it was like I always felt guilty, but I liked bacon. I did like the taste of bacon, and I liked meat. I grew up eating meat and ribs, barbecue, everything. So it was just, I think there was a point, it was like, I'm probably eventually going to be vegetarian. I always said this. I was like, I know that it's healthier, and I know that it's wrong, and I know that it just goes against everything I believe. So I'll probably end up being vegetarian. And this is before I was really exposed to veganism. Then with all of the YouTube videos and with the documentaries and with meeting people, I recognize that veganism is it's superior to vegetarianism. And once you understand what goes on with the egg industry and the dairy industry, that it's all connected and it's all horrific, that it was like I was vegetarian for a while, and then I just said, no, I have no, there's no reason. If what made it the click for me, learning the physiology and learning about our teeth and our digestive system, and just discovering that this incredible sardonic fact that we don't need meat to survive. Once I realized that we don't need it and we can live on an entirely plant-based diet and be healthier, I'm like, what the hell why are we still doing it? Why am I still doing it? There was no good reason for me to continue eating meat. Taste, tradition, and convenience are not acceptable in my view.
I got a good question. Since we're constantly being faced with so much misinformation and disinformation, because I spent 10 years trying to study nutrition and health due to my own illness. To distinguish what you thought, because nobody seems to agree, all the expert nutritionists, the doctors, there's all this conflicting information. So how did you know how to, in fact, both of you can answer this, how did y'all distinguish? In fact, you may even you didn't know 100%, but there was an inner gut feeling, and also because of your willingness and motivation to be kind to animals, to be good to the environment, that was what maybe gave you a leaning towards one way or the other. But were there sources that y'all found that y'all thought were extremely reputable, multiple reputable sources?
Guys, are you talking from the health aspect or for ethically? Because
mainly from a health.
I didn't do. This is a very important point. I didn't become a vegan for health reasons at all. It had nothing to do with health whatsoever. My dad, he's like, the first thing he said, "Oh, have you lost weight?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, how do you feel? Do you eat a lot of bread and crackers now? I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I tried to explain to him. I was like, "I'm not. This isn't a diet. Like it's part of my philosophy. Like I was led to." You want to know what?
Clint.
Just literally recognize the suffering of animals. That's what pushed me.
Okay. Clint mentioned that he had some health issues as well. So
can I just jump in?
Yeah.
Cool. Yes.
Don't ask if you can jump in. Just jump in.
I basically, without knowing, became vegan through health issues. So when I had the issue with the pain on my sternum, that was like a catalyst for me becoming vegan, because at that point I'd been vegetarian. I wasn't eating fish. I was probably still eating some eggs in some products, although when I was a teenager, I was actually allergic to eggs. So if I was to consume eggs, I would get these crazy migraines, which would just basically put me on the floor, and I couldn't do anything for a few hours until that wore off. But so I did sort of stumble into veganism through a health issue. But once I sort of eliminated all these things out of my diet, I saw my health increasing. I wasn't in as much pain. I had a clearer mind. Everything was going up in
much better.
Quality.
That's a similar thing. What happened to me with my health issues, I noticed that even though there's a lot of confusion in terms of what's supposed to be healthy and what's not, I saw that slowly but surely over 10 years towards, first it was a paleo diet, and then it just drew, it drew more. Well, because they also believe in the leafy greens and the nuts and the things like that, but started moving more and more towards the plant-based diet. And the only thing that I was doing, literally, and I told you this just recently, Pafo, that just before I became vegan, the only thing I was eating was a little bit of chicken each day and a little bit of cheese. And I didn't really care for the chicken. I was only doing it for the calories, and because it was one of the few foods that I could actually get down without having any kind of allergic reaction or intolerant reaction or some kind of nauseousness or, some kind of weird reaction. Meat, for some reason,
has a way of settling. It's, because it's crude protein, it's easier to, if you have, if you're having some kind of digestive problems. Go ahead.
Yeah. It can have apparently long-term damage. Like later on, you might experience inflammation due to the acidity or acidosis. So there are things like when I was viewing these documentaries, one of the things that was really helpful is just learning on a clinical level, on a scientific level, what happens physiologically in humans. And they even provided the computer graphics, and they really helped me to see that is not food for humans, or it shouldn't be, unless it's a survival situation, or self-defense mechanism or situation. But
I remember very vividly when this girl Nicole Scott said to me, I owe her a lot. I've never really even thanked her for this, but when she said to me, she's like, human beings aren't omnivores, we're frugivores. We're technically, physiologically, we're frugivores, and she posted the chart showing the diagram, the lineup of the different teeth. I'm sure you guys have seen this by now, of a bear, a dog, a donkey, and a primate, and then a human, and it just shows like the anatomy of our teeth, our incisors, our molars, our canines are nearly identical to those of primates, who are primarily
plant eaters.
95% plant eaters, herbivores, and specifically the frugivores. So that's what hit me, and I was like, I remember that moment. I was like, holy shit! I was like, this makes sense. In Biopan, this is the most how do I explain this? The most biologically accurate path to take in terms of our diet, because this is what we are. We're primates. We're not omnivores, we're primates. And nothing about our physiology says anything otherwise. So that I remember that moment. It was that chart, and then that there was that meme that said, what is it, 40,000 vegetables and plants.
Yeah, 70,000.
Yeah, 70,000 on this planet, and people still choose to eat the dead flesh of animals. And just looking at that image of that beautiful sort of cornucopia of fruits, and I've always had that just kind of it's stayed in my mind, and I say that's what I should be eating. And I'm like, if I'm not eating that, I don't care what I'm not eating. I'm always thinking I should be eating more of that. I mean, there's a lot of sort of psychology involved here, but it definitely wasn't for health reasons. It was for ethical reasons. But once I found out that our physiology calls for it, that's what actually made the change for me. Not because of the health benefits. I mean, I'm probably still chubby. I probably still have a belly. I'm not doing it. I probably still eat too much. Like I just told Clint, I boiled like a whole bag of 12 potatoes, and I just ate 5 of them before I came on the podcast. Anyway,
I was also going to say that, as you know by now, that the second primary reason why I am deciding to try to go on a vegan path was because I had no idea of how bad the cruelty and treatment was until I saw those documentaries. Now, I'll admit that I was suspicious. Like when I saw Earthlings, I was suspicious that what we're witnessing is the worst of the worst of the worst, and whether or not that was standard.
The very first disclaimer in the beginning says these are not isolated incidents. This is.
Yeah, I remember that. But even putting that aside, even if that wasn't the standard, I still know that it's bad enough that it would still justify going on a vegan diet for those reasons, because it's still obviously still too cruel in mass production in that capacity.
And this is what I want to explore. This is actually what I want to talk about. I really want to explore the ethical, moral ramifications of this, because as I said, it's not for health, and the health benefits, that's just like icing on the cake. That's just a great sort of side effect of this. The main thing should be the cruelty that's inflicted, the violence and the harm that's being inflicted on animals in such a massive scale, and obviously what it's doing to the environment and to the planet. Yeah. So that should be our main focus, and the health aspect is just, hey, you're doing a good thing. This is nature's way of rewarding you for for operating in cohesion with your own biology.
Yeah, I'll tell you another interesting thing that I had recently learned from Angie. I had never known about this concept, and I'll find out if y'all have ever heard of it. She has now stopped taking pets. The people that breed pets, that it's actually what they do to profit. Don't go to a pet store. I mean, you can take a stray. We don't support
right. Pets or breeders at all. You always adopt a rescue.
Yeah, right. See, so she's okay with the rescue thing if you just happen to find a squirrel that needs rescuing or something like that. But to actually go to a store and buy, she even bought a tarantula as a pet, and I think she had a snake and she's had a ferret. But she stopped doing that recently because she too just recently learned what's involved with this mass breeding, so people can profit off of these animals.
There's a small point here that it kind of reminds me. It makes me think. There is this issue that I would never have a carnivorous animal, like a carnivorous reptile, because of what I would have to. That was the other thing. I feel like that we know that goes on in nature, but to reenact that for your own.
And to witness it.
Your own entertainment, your own pleasure, to have an exotic animal like that, it makes it difficult. And so that I don't think that people should have these exotic pets that requires, just me personally, I couldn't do that. I couldn't go buy live animals. I had hamsters when I was a kid. They're beautiful, intelligent little critters that I could never think of feeding one to a snake, even though I know that's what snakes eat in the wild. So there's this empathy and this compassion thing that's at work there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just discussing that with my brother, coincidentally, a few days ago. It dawned on me. I was like, I can't imagine these people who have pet snakes that they have to actually feed them. I don't know if they have to do it daily, weekly. I'm not sure, but they actually have to feed them a live rat, not a dead rat, but a live rat or something. A mouse, a hamster, whatever.
You can buy them frozen as well, so it's not.
And the snake will eat it.
Yeah,
the snake will eat it.
It depends on the snake. Actually, it depends on the temperament of the snake. Sometimes, they want like a wild, fresh kill.
So when I thought about that, I was just like, wow, because that was like horrific.
Jump in. Go ahead. Jump in.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up a point, just about, I guess, breeders and pet shops. I think once you understand that what goes on is like a commodification of sentient animals and like a reduction of them into like pieces of like objects to buy from a shop and become entertainment. Like when you realize that it's not okay to do that for a pig or a cow or something that you eat, you understand that it's not okay for that to happen to animals to be put in a pet shop to buy at, to put on your shelf or to have as a
vanity.
form of entertainment.
It's just vanity, man.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to say that I'm against pets in general. Like if we were to have a pet and to have that relationship, I'm okay with that. Yeah. It's just that if there is a facility that is mass producing, mass breeding, and the conditions are horrible, which they usually are, and they're doing that for profit, and they're doing that
to profit. That's the problem. As long as the incentive is profit, it's not an ethical incentive. That there's always going to be if it's maltreatment there.
And if it's in mass form, like a mass production aspect to it, that's what would just really disappoint me. Like even if a friend sold a puppy, let's say, his puppy just happened to have puppies, and he did profit off of selling it. I'm okay with that. It's just that mass production, and of course, for
you shouldn't
profit,
be okay with it, because the mentality is, why should we buy or sell any living thing? Like the idea is, even the language is changing among vegan communities. We don't call them pets; we call them companion animals, because we're trying to instigate and institute a new understanding of our relationship to the natural world and our relationship to the animal kingdom. So, like, we shouldn't think of them as pets. We should think of them, if we have a symbiotic relationship with them, we're providing for them, and we're not forcing them to do things against their will. They're not just merely for entertainment or whatever. This brings in a lot of really fuzzy issues of oh crap.
Yeah, this brings up a good point.
Service animals. Yeah.
This brings up a good point that I never did get back with you on in our previous session, and that is, let's say you were talking about we need to always be able to get their consent, and there's only a few problems I have with that. For example, if we have a dog and we want to give it a bath, and it doesn't want a bath, and we're not able to get its consent. Children who don't want to get up early to go to school in the morning, especially on a cold day, so we can't get their consent. Are you saying that we should let our children stay?
Guys, what we were talking about yesterday has to do with animals being used as work slaves, with animals being manipulated as labor, as objects to help us, get shit done that's completely our own prerogative. Like, that's not the same thing as sort of the caretaking. My cat hates getting his nails cut. I have to wrap him up in a towel. He'll scratch the shit out of me, but I do that for his sake, for my sake, for my carpet. Okay, like, I'm doing that against his will, but it's entirely different than using him and exploiting him, for financial gain. That's completely different.
The only difference is. Yeah, the only difference is I keep trying to make the distinction with you, but you keep forgetting that it's not for profit. It's not for my personal use. But again, it's in that symbiotic relationship where we as a community, the community with the animals, if we can all have a tit for tat, I scratch your back, you scratch my back. But my point was, we're not going to always be in a position to get full consent, not from our children, not from our pets, not from certain animals that we might use, as long as it's in a respectful kind way.
How do you use anybody in a respectful way? And the utopian society that you're talking about does not exist yet. So when we get to that point, we can deal with those ethical and philosophical and moral issues then. It doesn't exist right now. Right now, you know what exists, so that's what we're trying to get away from.
Well, for example, a dog that can help a blind man, who a dog that's a service that he's providing. He may not always want to do it, but it sometimes it's in everybody's interest as a collective.
Sure.
If we make
dogs, the drug sniffing dogs,
we make sacrifices for each other, and if we can just try to incorporate, again, I was telling you that. People make the argument that a lot of animals, as long as they're treated with respect and kindness and they're trained properly, that they actually get pleasure out of it as well, because they can sense that they're being, they have a purpose and that they're assisting their owner in some way.
I think that the answer to this is that dogs and cats are highly, highly domesticated, and we have a very strong bond with them over generations and generations of time. They actually represent an exception. We've taken them out of their natural habitat, out of the wild, out of the animal kingdom, sort of out of those natural cycles, and we do have a symbiotic relationship with them. So cats and dogs are that exception. As far as the other animals, I cannot see how we can ever justify using another animal.
Well, again.
Sorry, if you have something to say.
Was Clint trying to? Okay.
No, I just wanted to bring up, just another point on pet shops. There's been a bit of a shift in a few different countries around the world where they won't take in animals that are being bred specifically to sell. So I think it might be Canada. I'm not sure exactly, but there's been a ban put in place that you can only sell or you can only get companion animals that are rescue dogs. You're not allowed to. Yeah, it's so good. But it's only started happening. But I know in Australia, there's breeders everywhere. There's underground breeders for dogs, and it's just a money making thing. But at least some countries, at least some places are sort of taking some initiative and not allowing sort of breeders to profit off animals in these pet shops.
Clint, what do you say to this idea of sort of that gray area there, like bees and backyard eggs, and you have a sheep and you're gonna shear it for the wool, and it's only going to you, and you take care of that animal. I mean, these are, as I've always said, these are extenuating circumstances that don't generally exist in our society, and it's not what we're against. It's not what we're trying to get away from.
Well, you just said
that beings are inferior. That these living beings are inferior to us, and we have this superiority, and we're above them, and we can, dominate them and all that. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you said again that they're just for us, but again, it's for the community as a whole, like an interaction there.
I mean, the human species is for us. I mean, how is it that we are dependent upon other life forms to meet our needs when we're smart enough to create the technology and the inventions and the machinery?
I was trying to say that hopefully, ideally, it's a situation where the animals also benefit with that exchange. For example, like the food that we grow, that the ox helps us to grow, that's part of the grain that goes to feed the ox.
You have to think bigger. You're actually thinking very small-minded and myopic in this. Those oxen are bred specifically for those purposes. They wouldn't exist if we didn't already have this mentality. Like, nature is fine on its own. Nature does not need our help. It only needs our help when we interfere, when we over-harvest, when we do what we do, and clear cutting and the deforestation and sometimes upsetting the natural balance of the ecosystem. That's when it needs our help.
Sometimes we need animals like eye-seeing dogs for the blind, for example. There are these situations where we could benefit. Like, we shouldn't try to go be so quick to fight against it completely.
I keep saying that dogs and cats are different.
If we can find that balance. But I could still find examples for you where even animals, we shouldn't let them just be complete freeloaders or whatever to just
not in the wildlife, wildlife in the natural kingdom, or what animals are you talking about?
Well, ideally, they say that if you leave animals in the wild, that's actually they have a much shorter lifespan and a more stressful and a more painful one anyway. But I was just referring to, if we did have a collection of animals within a community and we all helped to serve one another, and we didn't, abuse one another and we didn't exploit one another, would you be against that if it was, if it was done right?
It is a little bit of a tricky one, because obviously we're kind of
talk to me about it when it's actually done right, and then I'll give you an answer.
Yeah,
right. We've almost been given this issue of having, sheep and other farmed animals, chickens, being, I guess, abused and overpopulated for so long, being bred, that there is people that rescue them. So, what are these people going to do with these animals that they've rescued? Is it okay to eat the eggs? Is it okay to use the wool because the sheep has grown too much and it needs to shed some wool?
Right.
I guess they're really specific individual situations, and it's not going to happen in everyone's backyard. It's not going to happen in everyone's neighborhood. So it's more of a personal decision there, because you're actually helping the animal out in some situations. Just on the bees though, I was talking to a woman a couple of weeks ago, and she was telling me about a guy who actually rescues bees. So a bee colony in a certain area that has been flagged as dangerous or a nuisance, but the bees are helping us. We need bees. They're a super important animal to have in our environment. So what this guy does is he actually rescues the queen and rehomes them in a different area. But this woman was telling me how because when that happens, there is honey left over. So there is a product which is left over from the rescue of these bees. So she is vegan, except for she will have this honey which is derived from rescued bees. So
right,
yeah, this is the gray area. This is the kind of fuzziness that where actually this is what's actually disturbing to me, guys, is that that this is where your focus is, that you're thinking of veganism as this blanket set of rules and morality that needs to be applied in every single circumstance. It's a philosophy, it's a mentality, it's a mindset, and the mindset is we should not view other life forms as inferior. We should love and respect all animals and nature, and that's the point. So you start with that premise, and then you just you apply it to everything, and you can answer these questions yourself. You're taking sort of this block concept, and then what about the Inuits? What about the Native Americans? What about backyard eggs? Well, what about if I have a sheep and I treat it well? Well, I mean, all these hypothetical scenarios, they're irrelevant because none of those situations apply to you right now specifically. What applies to you right now specifically is whether you're contributing to or trying to minimize the harm and the pain and the suffering that's being committed.
If you remember, the reason why
this is a question of focus, I think.
If you remember, the reason why I asked those questions, I had very good reasoning behind each and one of those. For example, the current Eskimos that live right now, I wanted you to know that I didn't design those questions as gotcha questions or anything like that. They were questions that were helping me to understand the vegan mindset, and I wanted to know how vegans might, on average, view current Eskimos right now that live in an environment of scarcity when it comes to fruit and vegetables and plant life. And I thought it was a very valid question. I don't think it was irrelevant.
No, it is valid, but what's irrelevant is not irrelevant.
So I thought, while ago you said irrelevant.
I'm correcting myself. I'm saying it's not pertinent to the situation, to the actual situation at hand. The point is, you're focusing on all these things, and there's nothing wrong with it. We all have these questions.
I was very curious, and as a lot of people first coming into veganism, they have a lot of these questions, these moral questions, and you do seem to keep repeatedly getting frustrated when I ask these questions.
I'm not frustrated, dude. I am not frustrated. I promise you. No.
Okay.
Clint does. I don't know. Does Clint know me by now? Anybody who knows me knows I'm not frustrated. I'm just trying to get out my thoughts because I think really fast.
I'll play along.
There is this issue, though. There is this issue that, like, if your focus is fundamentally on, it's like you're trying to judge the rationale of the vegan movement itself. Like, you're trying to make sure that it's not this extreme. You're judging the philosophy and the movement itself, trying to see.
I'm just trying to get information. I'm just trying to get information from you and other vegans. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to judge yet. I'm not trying
think about the idea itself. That's what I'm trying to say. Is think about the idea itself, not the people that you might might be bad apples or might misrepresent.
You seem to get defensive. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get.
Me, boy.
Listen. I'm trying to get information from you, and I'm hoping that listeners can get information and be more informed, and just get an idea of the philosophy and the mindset and where your heart is. So I can go down the list of each question I asked. I thought each one was very carefully thought out and valid, and needs to be covered for those just coming into this. And again, I'm trying to find that balance, because you know me, I'm always trying to find that proper balance, and I'm trying to avoid the extremes, because you have those really extreme vegans, and then you have those other vegans who are very light vegans. They're just barely vegan. And I'm trying to find that middle ground somewhere where I'm not trying to take it to a ridiculous level. Like there would be some people who would be against seeing eye dogs, for example. They really take it to the extreme. And I don't think there's any harm in me trying to tap in to find out where you lie within that spectrum, or where Clint might lie in that spectrum. Did Clint pause up, or?
No, I hit mute for a minute because I'm looking for something I was going to read to you. But, oh, wait, it does look like he's frozen. He's in that stoic position. It looks like he froze. We'll see if we can get him back. Listen, guys. Trust me, dude. Trust me.
He actually dropped out.
Yeah, I'll try to get him back in a second. There's no hostility here whatsoever. What you're sensing is just my passion, and I'm gonna read something to you.
No. I'm gonna later quote you word for word, because I went back and watched the video, and there's actually you specifically when I was talking about plucking the fruit off the tree. You actually admitted it yourself that you thought it was an irrelevant, kind of a ridiculous question. You know, you didn't actually say the word ridiculous, but you characterized it as we shouldn't even be focused on that. That it was basically you politely conveyed it was an idiotic. It was an idiotic.
No, because the idea in comparison with what is transpiring, what's going on, that you're thinking about that, and you're allowing what might be. What you may have perceived as extreme in terms of a movement to taint and influence your perception of that movement.
That's your projection. That is your projection. I never implied that. I never gave you that impression. All I did was ask you a question.
You heard from other vegans. Oh, we got to talk about the potato. you said you heard from other vegans.
That's what I was about to get. Yeah, that's what I was about to get to. Listen,
flicking the fruit and then pulling the potato out of the ground.
I found it on Clint's website because I went back to make sure that I didn't dream it, and you even liked it. You gave it a thumbs up. So you have already.
I don't even remember. Can you address this? Yes. I have no idea.
So here it is. I wonder if all the people outraged at a man being pulled off of an airplane are as outraged at a whale being pulled out of the ocean, a duck shot out of the sky, a calf taken away from its mother, or a potato pulled out of the ground. Plants have feelings too. Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Exclamation point!
Guys, are you kidding me? He's making the argument. He's speaking for those idiots who are constantly saying plants have feelings too. He's trying to make that point. It was a sarcastic point. He doesn't think that plants have feelings in the way that they describe. Just let him explain it to you.
No, the way
you misread that, man. You read that literally. That was sarcasm. Go ahead, Clint. Explain it.
Okay. If I did, I did. I don't know Clint well enough now, but when I read this, the way if you look at the way this reads, most people would agree with me that if they were to read this and they didn't know Clint,
please explain it, Clint. Explain it, please.
Okay. So that was just taking the piss out of a few conversations I'd had in the days previous. I was talking to a couple of people that were trying to tell me that taking a potato out of the ground is exactly the same as taking a whale out of the ocean, and it's clearly not. And it was just a sarcastic post, and it was that. aimed at a few people that I'd had that discussion with. But I just want to go back on those points.
But that still doesn't negate the fact that what Pafo and I was discussing yesterday, that there are vegans who do believe that you should wait for an apple to naturally fall off the tree and let it come to the full term before eating it. And so that was just why that was brought up, the whole potato thing.
Guys, why does that matter? Why is that significant to you? Why is it significant to you if there are principles in this movement, if there is a foundational biocentric ethic to this movement? See what I'm saying? You're worried about that there might be bad apples in a movement, or there might be extreme versions of it.
Pafo, listen to me. You keep projecting all these views and emotions onto me. I keep telling you, you do not need to convince me that the idea of trying to no longer eat meat or ingest dairy is both good for my health, good for the environment, good for the animals. We have already tackled that several times. The reason why I'm asking certain questions like that for the 1000th time is because I'm trying to get an idea of, one, where you personally lie on the spectrum and where a lot of vegans may lie. Because if that is expected of me personally, if people expect me to give that much concern and be that sensitive to fruit, then that's where there's going to be a problem. Like, if, for example, if I found out that you were that sensitive to an apple being eaten before it fell to the ground, that would be problematic. That's all I'm saying. I was just trying to feel out the situation. But don't worry about trying to convince me whether or not I need to cruelty or avoid eating meat. You've already sold that to me, several times over.
Just want to jump in.
If you're worried about that, then you're looking at it's just common sense, man. Like use your own common sense. And that's not at all what this movement
I was just trying to find out where you are on the spectrum. It was just a harmless question, and I didn't mean for it to become an inflammatory thing.
Nothing's inflammatory, dude. I'm totally fine.
I just want to jump in.
Everything's cool. Go ahead, Clint.
Okay, can I jump in?
Yes.
Don't ask.
Just getting back to those. Yeah. I was trying. Just getting back to those points, like when I first went vegan, I was like super curious, like every little aspect of veganism, every gray area, every health issue, every environmental issue, everything that I could get my mind's attention on, I would research the fuck out of it. I would make sure I would have the discussion about Eskimos, about backyard eggs, about all these gray areas, these little nitty-gritty questions that people would raise. Because for the first year of me being vegan, I didn't say a word to anyone about it, because I was invested in discovering as much as I could about it, and I would have these discussions with people only after they were to ask me like why you're not eating that or why you're doing this. Then I would have the conversation, but I didn't want to have any gaps in my understanding. So I would specifically go out and deliberately focus on what the Eskimos are doing or what someone's doing with backyard chickens, just so that I could have an opinion, so that I could have an understanding for myself. So where I knew where to draw the line in my own psyche. After doing that for about a year, I got to a point where I was to have the specific lines and the guides to inform my decisions. And there is still a few areas that are gray.
Horseback riding, honey, these things are always
But that's not the focus. That's just you don't want to be out and talking to someone and have no idea about how to tackle that subject. So you need to discuss it. You need to have
exactly. Yeah, and it shouldn't be mischaracterized as being overly concerned or worried, or I'm not stressed out about it. You totally exaggerated that interpretation. All I'm doing is trying to get a collection of information from you and other vegans So I'm not trying to focus in too much on something. I'm not worried about anything in terms of, like whether or not I don't want to pick an apple is going to discourage me.
I mean, according to that, then you just need to meet more vegans. You just need to interact with more. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of websites. There's hundreds of YouTube channels, thousands of YouTube videos. I mean, it's incredible. So what I would say to that is just, expose yourself to, get to know James Aspie and get to know, Emily and Gary Yourofsky, man, and all these great sort of pinnacles in the movement, who are sort of leading the way. Here's a quote from James Aspie. I posted this morning. Somebody said, "Veganism is a cult. It's propaganda with no actual substance behind them." And he says in his Australian accent, I wish I could do it, but it's not propaganda. I could do it. Yeah, you want to read it, Clint? It says, "It's not propaganda that animals are mutilated, tortured, and slaughtered for foods and products we don't need and are better off without. What's more cult-like, eating plants or forcibly impregnating animals, stealing their babies from mothers, drinking milk from other species, killing babies, slitting throats, using skin as clothing, chopping bodies up into pieces, serving their legs, breasts, and ovulations on our dining tables while obsessing over bacon and claiming to hate animal cruelty." Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the point of that is, who's really being extreme? It's the carnists. Like there's and this idea about the fruit or whatever, I really do believe that is you're getting that idea from Jainism, the very extreme form of Hinduism that advocates nonviolence and do no harm, ahimsa, and they take it to that super extreme. They're also ascetic. They also deny sex. These people are like extremely. They're just taking it way, way too far. I think they deny sort of physical pleasure. If it's asceticism, that's what it represents. So that has nothing to do with veganism at all. And to get it right down to the point here, veganism is a way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as is possible and practicable, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. A philosophy and a way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as possible and practical, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose, and by extension promotes the development of and use of animal-free alternatives for the benefit of humans, animals, and the environment. In dietary terms, it denotes the practice of dispensing with all products derived wholly or partially from animals. That's what veganism is. So everything else that you might be concerned about, or, that within this movement, if you're seeing that, then that's not representative of the movement. I just described to you the core. That's the statement of.
I like that. I like that statement. I like that definition.
So just apply these questions to that and think about it. I just told you I just ate like a whole bag of potatoes. I think that we should plant fruit trees everywhere, and we should pick the fruit and eat it. And I don't believe that plants have feelings. We could talk about the subtleties there but it's like that. This isn't. You asked me about my shampoo. All vegans, if they are mature and they've developed this understanding, they're just going to buy the cruelty-free products. And this isn't a form of extremism. It's a form of awareness. It's
right. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I actually am. I not long ago I made my own toothpaste using my own recipe when I did some research and found out what's good for the teeth, like the coconut oil and the baking soda.
Coconut oil, I've done that too.
I use essential peppermint essential oil and a little bit of hydrogen peroxide, food grade. And so I'll never go back to the traditional toothpaste. And I've also made my own hairspray using a recipe that I found online. It's real simple. It's basically sugar water, and it actually works. It actually works really good. And I also have essential oils in that, which is really good. Sandalwood. Sandalwood, by the way, that's what I recommend. It smells really good. But I'm the bottle that I have right now of shampoo, which has gelatin in it, which is an animal product in the shampoo that I have right now.
Clint, so do you know the alternative to gelatin, to what it is that we get out of gelatin that is beneficial to our bodies, and what we how we can source that from the plant world, the collagen and the what is it, man? It's like it does help strengthen your hair and your nails, and I think your skin. But if we were to eliminate that and not use gelatin, is there an alternative? I believe that there's an algae that we can use, but does it have sort of the same synergistic, medicinal components?
Like cell repair and building cell repair and it's supposed to have all sorts of beneficial qualities for the body. Gelatin does, helping to build elastin, collagen, things like that. And so I was wondering if there's an alternative.
I sent you those links today, guys, but I guess they didn't. Did you read them?
No, I saw them, but I hadn't had a chance to click on them and look to see if they have the same health benefits. Like I know they can be used in cooking and things like that. Right. But the main reason why
that's why I was looking into it too, because my mom, remember I discussed this.
Right. And that I was just going to let you know that was the main reason why I was interested in gelatin, not for the food aspect of it, but just for the health aspect of it.
Clint, can you hear us? Did you get that question?
Yeah, it was a little bit glitchy, but yeah, I'm not really aware of a specific like ingredient in plants which would be like similar to gelatin.
Yeah,
but it's something that I would be interested in actually.
Ask all friends about it, because my mom has benefited from it, and it's the only non-vegan thing that she consumes right now. Is the little gelatin packets for her hip, because it actually really worked wonders on her hip. And I also wanted to say, so let me take a few minutes, because I think Gaius just needs to get to know me a little bit better. But I'm gonna take his side for a little while and talk about the misgivings that I had and all the questions that I had as I was transitioning. And there were times when I had like frozen fish in my freezer, after a while, or that I had stuff left over from other people that had lived there, roommates and stuff. And I told myself from the very beginning, because remember, I went vegan purely for ethical reasons, because my philosophy led me to it. Like it was literally an extension of my philosophy. And there were moments and times where I was like, okay, well, what if I crave the fish, or what if I crave this, or what if I want that? I don't want to stop myself. I told you this yesterday on the podcast, guys. I said, I don't like rules. I don't like restrictions. I don't like people telling me what to do. And I have a real hard time with authority, and even my own authority. So I didn't want to create any unnecessary obligations or restrictions, or sort of overburden myself with this, with trying to live up to this ideal. So I said, you know what? I'm doing this for the animals. I'm doing this because I'd be a hypocrite knowing what I know now if I didn't do otherwise. But if I feel like eating meat, if I feel like eating fish, if I want whatever, a chicken sandwich, if I want to eat something like that, I mean, milk and dairy was never really a problem, but with meats, I did enjoy meat. If I feel like eating it, I'm going to eat it. I'm not going to stop myself. I'm not going to feel guilty. I'm going to do what I am compelled to do, and I'm going to follow my own conscience. Okay, and I did that, and I made it so that no one's telling me what to do. No one is imposing this on me. I'm doing this, from my own non-free will, from my own out of my own volition. Okay, I'm gonna do this, and it's not for anybody else. It's for me. It's for the animals. Okay, and that's it. Because I approached it that way, it was a completely organic, natural transition, and there was never a moment where I was like, oh my god, I'm getting this craving. I want to do this. I want to do that. I literally just within a week's time went from vegetarian to vegan and cut out all animal products and just got rid of everything, and it wasn't a problem. And then if there was ever anything left in my house, like I was talking about earlier, there was frozen fish and stuff. There was a time where it was left over, and it was there, and I felt like it was going to go bad. So I went ahead and cooked it, and I ate it, and I said, you know what? I was like, this could have been psychological, could have been psychosomatic, but I felt stress in the meat, and I felt like this is unnecessary. Like I seasoned the shit out of it, and if I didn't put all that seasoning, would I really want to eat this dead flesh as it is? And I said I can make tofu that tastes just as good. And I actually did. The next day I grilled some tofu and I seasoned it up just like I seasoned that fish. And I said, I don't need to eat that fish, because there was a while there. This is all in my article about this, guys. You should read it. Where I said I'll probably be pescatarian for a while, because I do enjoy fish, and I think the health benefits, the omega-3s, the essential fatty acids, and I love salmon. I love grilled salmon. So I thought I was going to be pescatarian for a while, and I think fish was probably that was the very last meat that I ever ate. And then I just decided I didn't need it, and it was like my pleasure, my taste, my tradition, my yearnings are not as important as the standard that I'm trying to uphold and the ideal that I'm trying to represent. And that's what motivated me. So what I'm trying to tell you is this wasn't something self-imposed. It wasn't for the sake of others. I completely did it. I'm kind of like an Epicurean, and I have this mentality that, like, if you feel like doing something, just fucking do it. Because you're gonna obsess about it, and you're gonna think about it, and it's gonna become this thing that it actually, you give it power when you deny yourself something. So I say, don't deny yourself anything. Do it until you get sick, and then you know better, and then you'll never do it again. But what you know is wrong, don't do what you definitely know is wrong. If it's gonna make you feel guilty, if you're gonna regret it, if it doesn't go along, it doesn't coincide with your own value system and your own conscience thing, don't do it. And that's the approach that I took. So does that help?
I was telling you the last pod session that was the exact same approach and philosophy that I took when I quit smoking. And that's what I tell others, to take that exact same approach, where for example, a lot of people will set up real strict deadlines. Like, I got to quit smoking by this exact day. It's okay to do that within the last week, because I did that within the very last 4 days. I thought, okay, I need to go ahead and solidify this time where I need to go ahead and agree with myself that, yes, I'm going to stop, because I finally weaned myself off down to like one cigarette a day. And I did that for a long time. And, I'd smoke 1/3 of it in the morning, the next third midday, and then finally the last third. So I got to where my body physically did not crave it anymore like it used to. And I did a lot of other, things. Of course, I'm really simplifying it right now, but I finally came to that point where, and sometimes I allowed myself a lot of flexibility. Sometimes I would fall back and I would start smoking 5 cigarettes all of a sudden, so I would go back and forth, because I wanted it to be a true natural process. And I wanted to be, in fact, I used to tell my dad all the time, I don't even want to try to quit smoking until I am truly ready, until I am truly acknowledging that it's something that I really need to do, and I'm doing it for my health and, for all the right reasons. Because I didn't want to just quit. I didn't quit just for him, because he wanted me to quit, badly. And I wanted to do that for him, but I couldn't let that be the only reason, So
I wanted to make that point too, that if you backslide, if you feel you get a craving, or if you accidentally eat something that has meat or dairy in it, or eggs in it. I've eaten things that had eggs in it that I didn't know. I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm not going to condemn God, I'm such a bad person. It's so horrible. It's if you're not conscious of it, if it's unknown to you, I mean, there's no reason. You can't set up unrealistic expectations for yourself. Right. Philosophy.
I think it's
spirituality or anything.
I think it's wise to give yourself that appropriate margin for error, to slide a little bit, of wiggle room.
Of course. And that's, if that's what you're worried about, that's just living. You just got to be practical in everything. And part of my philosophy is balance, and not to avoid all extremes avoid extremes at all costs. I'm sorry that you didn't know more about this, about me, guys, before we had these talks.
So I just want to sort of bring up that, sort of not smoking. For me, like going vegan and eliminating sort of animal products was quite easy. But it also led to around the same time, really, I stopped smoking weed and I stopped drinking alcohol. And it just was, it almost, didn't even actually have to try. It was just almost like the self-discipline and the dedication that I was putting into veganism, and reading all the labels, making sure that everything had, there was no animal products in it. constantly discussing with people about, taking things out of your diet, it basically just led to like that type of mentality going into other aspects of my life. And I didn't drink alcohol for a year. I don't smoke weed anymore. And it was interesting. I was out with friends on a few occasions. And, obviously people have drinks and do other things. And I was at a festival and I was sitting around with some friends, and they were like, "So you don't eat meat, you don't eat cheese, milk, dairy, cigarettes, alcohol, weed. Like, what do you do? Like, that's like hell for me, So,
yeah.
But I just find that veganism and being sober, being clean is like it almost like goes together.
Yeah, I used to drink, casually. Like I would have one glass of, what is it? God, now I can't even remember the name of it. Anyway, it was real easy for me to quit drinking, not to where it was something that I enjoyed doing every day with my brothers, and so they would drink a little more than I did. But I got lucky because I didn't have a predisposition to, my physiology was just different. My brother, on the other hand, two of my other brothers, they seem to have a gene where they crave alcohol way more than I do. And it was a little harder for me to quit marijuana, though. I did enjoy that, but I haven't touched that in years. Also, I probably quit that about 10 years ago. And alcohol, I probably quit that about 8 years ago. But I remember vividly, it was not that hard at all. I missed the fun that I had with both marijuana and alcohol. So that will always, I just got to find ways of replacing that, finding other ways to have fun. But I got real lucky in that sense on quitting alcohol. And again, I got real lucky. I was explaining this to Pafo just because of my health issues and me already redesigning my diet year after year and finally almost drawing towards a vegan diet anyway. Like right now, I basically, I guess some people would almost call it cold turkey. I practically did that. a few days, I tried to finish up what little chicken I had, and so far, by the way, I'm doing okay. And I'm holding up my weight. But it's not like I miss it. The only thing I was scared about that I reported to Pafo was whether or not I would be lacking in certain nutrients. But he helped to educate me, and those documentaries helped to educate me that no, I can get all that from plant-based foods. And so far, I seem to be doing okay, like with the mashed potatoes and other substitutes or alternatives. So so far, I'm doing great, and it's been real easy for me.
Let me give you an example of this
right
idea
quick.
of making
I did want to quickly add that it's already been like basically, I'm going to say 8 years since I've had any fast food like tacos, pizza, any of that. So, a lot of people, that's real hard for them at first, that adjustment right there, no more fast food. So I had already made that transition, and it did suck. It hurt, having to give all that up. But so I'm in a place right now, a very rare, fortunate place that probably most people don't get the advantage of when they make that transition to a vegan diet. Yeah. So it's going to be real easy for me.
What I wanted to say was the transition is different for everyone. It depends on where you're already at. It depends on what your lifestyle is like. It depends on what your diet is like, before you make that shift. And again, let me go ahead and along that train of thought. There was a time where I was still trying to make these judgment calls and saying, okay, so if I go out to dinner and the people I'm with order some satay chicken,
fish,
some fish or chicken strips or whatever, and then they don't eat it and then they leave, and it's like, would it be wrong to take? This is what's going in your head, Could it be wrong to take it home and eat it because otherwise that animal would have died in vain? It's like a waste
for nothing,
right? I was questioning this, and I went into some vegan and vegetarian groups, and they were like, hell no, I would give it away, or I would just throw it away, or blah, blah, blah. And I didn't quite understand because I hadn't really made that shift yet, because it wasn't wasn't so much of a lifestyle for me yet, and I was still thinking of it as food. It's that we have to we have to change our mentality and say, well, it's not food. I'm honoring the animal. This is another thing. You have to listen to this. I'm trying to side with you guys in these questions. If we throw it out and it goes to waste, aren't we dishonoring the animal? The animal died and it was sacrificed. So even if we didn't contribute to it, the best thing we can do is eat it and consume it so that it doesn't go to waste. Know that the cycle of life, why would I want to put that into my body? Why would I want to do anything? It's a statement. It's a principle that you say, I don't want that I'm not going to consume that. And even if I'm not contributing to it, this is what somebody said to me, actually, it really stuck. This is, you're not honoring the animal. The animal's already dead. You're honoring them by not killing them and not supporting it and not contributing to it. Because when you consume it, well, that becomes another form of justification. Someone else looks at you and says, well, see, you can eat meat when you want to. So what's the difference when I eat meat? And once you go down that slippery slope, all that gray area. So it's not an extreme mandate to act and live a certain way. It's a principle that you uphold so that you can continuously make this statement to the world, because it's like a message that every day you're actually making a statement by your food choices. Now we can talk about this a little more if you want, but I really want to get into pantheism and veganism and the connection and the trajectory and how it is the natural the synthesis of these two movements. So is there anything else that you guys wanted to explore when it comes to the nutrition?
I think I got all what I wanted to say.
Don't ask me questions, guys.
Sorry, that just cut out there. So I missed the last bit of that, but I just wanted to say just on what your point was, Popo, about eating sort of leftover food or having that question, what should I do with it? I always come back to the idea, what if that was human, or what if that was a person? So when it's leather or any animal product, the way I see it now is that sentient being was a person, because they had a personality, they had character, they had feelings, emotions, and experience. So if a sentient being has an experience, they have a personality, they have character. So that bit of meat was a person. And so if someone's going to say, what are we going to do with this leftover meat? The way I view it is that it's a leftover person. And if you were to ask someone to eat a leftover human, they would say, no way, that's beyond
this gets into,
my...
This gets into the idea of honoring and respecting life and the life principle and the unique individual manifestations of life that are all around us. So that's the difference, is that, guys, you're my friend, but if you die and then your body is here, I'm like, well, it's going to go to waste, so let's just chop them up and eat them. I mean, there's a reason why we don't engage in cannibalism, aside from the physical effects of it, the negative consequences of it, the diseases you would get. But it's because there's an ethic, there's a principle, that there's a reason why we honor our dead, and we are not honoring other non-human animals in any way right now. That's the point. It's a shift in the mentality, and that's what we need. What we want to talk about.
And the question that you had asked, that vegan group, aren't you glad that they didn't perceive it as a ridiculous question? Because I thought it was a very, a good, valid question that you presented to them, and you were confused.
Some of them did, and I think they called me out on it, and they were like, "Why the hell are you in this group?" Because I even posted a picture of the skewers, of the meat skewers. I posted a picture of the chicken, and then I said, "Here, serious question. If we're if we're actually, it might have been a vegetarian group. It was a vegans and vegetarian, so at least that wasn't. It was. I don't know.
These are the questions.
But don't you? But it was a question that you had to struggle with on your own, that you could ask others, and you're probably glad that you hopefully got some positive feedback from some of them.
It actually just came. My understanding of it only came about once I was vegan for a while, and I started to understand what this represents. I started to understand that we should not see other animals as food. They are food to other animals, but we should not see them as human food. That's the difference. They don't have to be human food, if we don't have to eat them, then we shouldn't. Then it's immoral
I agree. I agree. But I also would say that those are the type of questions that new vegans are going to be asking both themselves and others. Yeah. And it's something that, people are going to wrestle with these thoughts, and they're not going to know the answers right away. So some of them will, especially if they contemplate on it for a little while. Which
that's why. In fact, that's why I'm sharing it with you. Like there was a lot of those questions. There's a lot of these sort of things I was grappling with in my mind, and until I just kind of settled in it and I understood. I was like, this is what I'm capable of. This is what I know I can do, and this is my understanding of it. Yeah. And it's realistic. It's not an extreme form of anything. Like, I don't know if I can go into a grocery store. Okay, here's an example. Like some of the people do around here. And in Whole Foods, it's not meat, it's murder. It's not meat, it's murder. We're living beings, and they're yelling and they're causing this ruckus. Now, if I were there, we're talking about direct action everywhere. Okay, if I was there when that took place, I would encourage those people, and I would say, it's awesome what you're doing. I really appreciate what you're doing. But what I would do is I would stand. I wouldn't make fun of them. I wouldn't think it's weird. I wouldn't be embarrassed of them at all, but I would stand in the gap and I would talk to the people who are looking and be like, what the fuck's wrong with these people? Are they crazy? Why are they? I would say, no. There's a significant reason here. I was like, have you never stopped to think about it that you're still breastfeeding? Have you never stopped and thought about it that you're eating, pieces of dead animals that had thoughts and feelings just like your dog? How come you don't eat dog meat? Why do you care for some animals and then disregard others? So I would stand in the gap and I would try to talk to the people who were watching who didn't really understand yet. I don't know if I could go into the grocery store myself and do that because it's a little disruptive.
I'm too
it's a little disruptive, and it might turn people off. These are the kind of things that maybe I don't want to be very careful here. This is not.
There's a right way to do it. There's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it to communicate. Your views.
It's not necessarily wrong though. It's not necessarily wrong because that's making a very visible tangent point. But
I would agree. I would agree that. That might be necessary, but I just wanted to point out that there can be wrong ways that are a little too extreme. But and me personally, introverted and too shy to take that approach. But I'm glad that some people do have the balls and are extroverted enough to go and do that.
Yeah, I would probably do a huge thing with the V for Vendetta, with the anonymous masks on, and I would stand there. I would probably do that and let people watch like the footage or answer their questions. But like the loud sort of obnoxious activism, it's not for me. Go ahead, Clint. Clint, you got to speak up. You got to be more assertive, man. Just jump in.
Yeah, sorry. It's a really interesting point though, because a lot of vegans are like, this form of activism, this form of advocacy, it's wrong. It's not good. It tarnishes the message. But and I see a lot of it because there's so many different types of vegans these days. There's the sporty ones, there's the environmentalist ones, there's the fat junk food ones. There's all sorts of vegans, but at the same time, there's all sorts of non-vegans. And I really like the idea that for every single form of non-vegan, we need every single form of activism. So there's not going to be one form of activism or advocacy for veganism which works for every single person. So if someone wants to do that extreme throwing blood at the butchers, paint at the butchers, let them do that. If someone wants to go into a supermarket with signs and do that, let them do that. But you have to find your own voice. You have to find your own way of doing it. And whatever you do is going to get through to somebody. Whatever they do is going to get through to someone else. So we need to be creative and do every single form. And if you don't agree with it, then that's cool. Just let them do that. But you have to find your own version, because you're going to be in a situation where you will be talking, you'll be discussing it with someone, and you need to find a way to connect with them and give them that message. And that's all you need to do, because at the end of the day, you're going to have a more impact with doing it your way than doing it someone else's way. And I think that we need every sort of form of activism.
Which leads me to my point when it comes to pantheism. So my speciality, my school of influence, has to do with naturalistic religion, naturalistic spirituality, these philosophy groups, this sort of abstract, unknown nebulous philosophy that exists, which we all share, which three of us share, and yet it's misunderstood. It's not really widely known. I'm trying to popularize it. Me and Perry and Peter Moriarty and Rich Legend and Charles and a few others, and Gaius, has played an important role. If we're trying to teach and educate and sort of share this philosophy and spread this ideal, this understanding, this awareness, I believe that if we merged pantheism and veganism, it would be unstoppable. And because I don't know about you guys, but I mean, how can I say this in such a clear and cogent way? To me, pantheism is reality. It is the way the world actually works. It is not just some obscure, a philosophical, metaphysical notion. I mean, this is what I observe. This is what I believe. This is what I've dedicated my life to. And so what I'm saying is, now that veganism has been incorporated into biopantheism, and the two are one, and they're inseparable now. I feel that this has more power and weight and influence because the vegans who aren't really sure about their spirituality, I believe would resonate with pantheism and would completely gravitate toward it. The pantheists who are already living out these principles just need to be made aware that there is a movement that's entirely based on love and respect for nature and compassion for other non-human animals, and that's veganism. So, I mean, it's just a no-brainer, man. And me and Clint have talked about this many times. Like, it's so organic and natural. It is the natural progression of this this humanistic, biocentric, ethical standard, this ideal that we're trying to teach and promote. And this is what I espouse.
I think that's a beautiful expression of your tailored view of pantheism, called biopan, and like just all what you just described there. That's a beautiful concept, a beautiful thing there. And if you can draw more people to that, I think that would be great. Pantheists in general, unfortunately, since it's such a broad umbrella term, you're going to get all walks of life, all camps. So you're going to get your meat eaters and your vegans and your vegetarians, under. It's good that people like you and me are trying to create our tailored, more focused view. It's a subset of the overall pantheism, and to try to draw people into that. You've described several times in several eloquent ways on your page, on your, and even, in these podcasts. I think it's a very attractive idea and a very attractive movement if you can get that going.
Thanks, guys.
I mentioned earlier.
I'm not just strident, I'm actually eloquent as well. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, I mentioned earlier, like in the podcast, that basically how I came to be vegan is stripping away of these conditionings, these ideas, these beliefs, these like stories and delusions, which I'd been, born into, like how I need to eat meat and all that sort of thing. And so veganism came like before pantheism for me, but pantheism basically came in the same way. And it was a stripping away of conditioning and illusions and ideas that I was born into, like through sort of religion and stuff like that. So I think the natural process for veganism and for pantheism is basically a stripping away of these things that aren't true, things that they don't serve you, things that don't actually exist anywhere, and stripping them back. And reality is, the tangible things that we can sense with our senses, nature and everything in nature, and with that grounding in reality, then you can sort of make better decisions on how you interact with nature and animals itself.
I agree. Absolutely. Gaius, can you see the natural trajectory, the understanding, the almost intuitive understanding that you can't claim to believe that everything is divine, that everything is God, and yet, chop up and butcher and murder God and consume it unnecessarily? You understand that now?
You mean as a biopan?
As a pantheist as you are.
Like I was telling you the other day, I was trying to explain in the previous podcast that me as a pantheist, if remember that broadly just simply means I believe that the universe is the constant causation of my existence. But when it comes to a list of morality, how we should treat one another and how we should try to preserve life, for example, I think that's excellent for people like you to come in to create that more tailored, focused view to attract, because think of it as a huge fishing net. Pantheism is like this huge fishing net that brings in a lot of people. And then now people like you, need to focus that net, a net of your own, and get even more of a select group.
You bring up a very important point, though. I just realized something, that it's our starting point, actually, that defines our trajectory. Like you just said, that what pantheism means to you, say it again, is that the universe
is the constant causation of my existence.
Okay,
and it involves...
So that's your definition of pantheism. If that's your definition of pantheism, that doesn't necessarily lead to ethics, to morality, to environmental ethics, or to veganism.
Right.
So it actually depends on our starting point. When I say I'm a pantheist, it's because I believe nature is God. Nature is divine. And that means I'm a part of nature, and so is my cat and the pig and the chicken and the cow and Clint and you. So that's my
in my take, my worldview,
yeah.
In my worldview, there's both pain and the suffering and pleasure, the yin and the yang, cruelty as well as kindness. And so as just a broad pantheist, I know that there is, I'll just call it evil for an evil. I hate using that term, but to make it simple for the conversation.
There are harmful things, things that they're undesirable.
Yeah, that cause pain and suffering. That is just an integrated part of the universe, always will be, always has, always will be. And as a pantheist, I've accepted that. I've acknowledged that, I have, it's, the stoic in me. I realize that there are hardships and that there has to be hardships. It's to create that contrast. In order, you have to have pain in order to have pleasure, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I'm not a stoic. I'm a revolutionary. I take a different approach. I don't believe that we should ever accept it. I believe we should, we should fight it.
I believe.
We should fight it to the end.
I believe we should only accept it on the ones that are unavoidable, that are in place for a reason, that need to be there. But if we can avoid certain unnecessary, harmful cruelty or pain, I'm all for that. Just like when I found out about how animals were being treated, I find that as an unnecessary pain and suffering and cruelty here on this planet. And so I'm going to do everything I can to do my part to support that change.
So I appreciate that, and the animals do too, trust me. But we lost Clint. I think he's coming back now.
Now back. Yeah, sorry.
You okay? You still with us?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you missed a good one.
I lost connection.
You missed a good one.
No, he'll watch it. He'll listen to it later. But guys, you make another point that I gotta. Let me say this real quick. If I interrupt you guys, it's not because I'm trying to be rude. It's because my mind goes so fast that if I don't attempt to address the point, I'll forget. I'll just lose it. So that's all it is. It's not that I'm trying.
I totally know that. My brother's the same way. My older brother. In fact, me talking to you completely reminds me of when I have conversations with my brother, because he is the same way. I'll say something and it'll trigger thoughts in his head, and he has to get that out and he has to follow it through all the way to the end. Like right now, you're probably flipping out that you're going to forget. What you need to do is you need to write this stuff down, because this is what I do. This is what I did in the last pod session.
You're telling me to write. That's all I do, man. Yeah, but go ahead.
On a piece of paper. This is what I did in the last session. I'd hear y'all say something, and so I'd jot down some notes.
Take notes. Sure. Take notes. That's
politicians.
That's what you do in a debate.
Yeah, that way you don't forget, and that way you can be courteous and allow them to finish their thoughts, and then come back to that so you don't forget. Because I get Swiss cheesed. I'll forget. You forgot, didn't you?
You guys,
he forgot.
Engage for a little while. I'm gonna.
Well. Let me tell you. I was talking about the yin and the yang. How pantheism for me involves cruelty as well as kindness, and that
Okay, got it.
Everybody,
It wasn't that you realized the pain and the suffering. It's that you actually acknowledge that these beings are not very different from you. The point I wanted to make was how can you eat bacon and ham and pork chops and chicken strips and eat burgers and not realize that the animals who are providing you their flesh have suffered and are experiencing their lives are being extinguished. It's not that we. Let me be honest here, okay? Let me be really, really honest. I did not think about the feelings of farm animals. I thought how all animals are beautiful and sentient and alive. I'd never made the connection that farm animals have feelings too. That farm animals have just as much the capacity to suffer as my cat or dog or any pet I've ever had or any animal I would rescue. That's the more salient point, is that we have to make that psychological connection. Emotional.
I, for some reason, never had that problem. Even as a kid, I always knew, how Christians, theists, they made that claim like animals were somehow not intelligent enough or important enough to have souls. They didn't. Yeah. I remember thinking that was one of the weirdest things to me. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I never thought that. I could look into the eyes of my cat, and I knew that cat had much of a reason of being a being and as much of a significant being as me, that it had feelings, it had thoughts, it even has dreams. I knew that as a kid, but where I was naive, even up until a few days ago, I did not realize that the industry for some reason, I did not know that they were treating them that cruelty. I, for some reason, was foolish enough to think that they somehow take them into a bin and gas them, and it was all humane. I don't know why. I didn't even really think about it all that much. But for some reason, I did not realize it was anything close to that.
How can you ever humanely kill someone who doesn't want to die? Yeah.
How can the closest thing slaughter something? The closest you can ever come to is gassing them or injecting them with something that makes them calmly fall asleep. Like when we put animals to sleep, or
this is not euthanasia that we're talking about. I mean, the gas burns the lungs of the pigs, and they're electrocuted first, and or chickens are electrocuted as they're dipped upside down in water, and sometimes they're not completely stunned, and the saw will actually miss their throat, slice their face open. Many times pigs are boiled alive. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, because what we're talking about is production and industry, mass producing.
I've been upset for a long time just when I found out that bulls were being castrated without any kind of anesthetic. I flipped out when I found that out. I was like, are you kidding me? And I saw the instrument that they would use, these scissors. I was like, oh, my God. And they do it to pigs.
The baby piglets, as they just
cut their tails. And so
little chicks are
I just wanted to say
beaks are burned off. It's horrible. It's atrocious, man.
Go ahead, Clint.
As animals, like all animals have got like senses as we do. So there's been a view that animals, because they don't display certain behaviors, like you're building cars or building skyscrapers or writing music and poetry, that they don't have the capacity to have like intellectual kind of ideas or to feel that as we do. But experience.
It's not their ability to think that matters, or their cognitive ability. Yeah. It's the capacity to which they are able to experience pain. If it's not their ability to think, it's can they suffer? And that's a quote. One of you guys can look that up later.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the point that I was getting to, that they are equal to us in their ability to feel pain and suffering and joy and happiness and fear and to mourn the death of their family. Like those experiences, those abilities are pretty much exactly the same as what we have. So,
and I love the quote at the end of Earthlings. Joaquin Phoenix says, they are not They are not, below us. They are not inferior. They are other nations, trapped in the same struggle as we. I made you watch Earthlings, guys, and I was actually surprised that you didn't have more of an emotional response to it. I can't get through it. I watch it in sections, and I try to pull what I can. But I actually had already seen so much of the undercover footage and and just in clips and certain PETA videos and stuff like that I knew all this stuff, and so it just represents the ultimate for me. And
I was telling you that I couldn't watch it consistently. There was times that I would have to look away, and there was times that I had to do a little bit of skipping, just a little bit, because it's like they were showing a particular type of torture, a house of hell, and I was like, okay, I get it. The blood squirts and they get turned upside down. I'm like, okay, I've had enough of this. I want to see the next chamber of horrors. So and it was hard for me to watch, and I can't even show it to my younger brother because he would flip. But I was going to tell him about it verbally, and I did. But he would hate me if I had him watch that.
You can start with Cowspiracy. I mean, there's a few scenes in there with the duck and stuff, but it's nowhere near the level of graphic violence. But again, if you're offended, if you're offended by what you're seeing, if you're offended by what you're seeing, why would you pay someone else to do it? Why would you consume it?
It's a good sign. No and I even have a hard time killing insects. Like if I find a spider in my house, both me and my brother do this. People will think we're ridiculous, but if I can afford the time, I don't always do it, but if I can afford the time and I'm not pressed, I will go through the trouble to find a way to scoop that up and take that spider outside. Even a spider, most people would think I'm crazy.
Guys, this is the point. This is the ethic that I'm trying. This is the biocentric ideal I'm trying to get to. We all do this. I feel guilty. I have ant traps now because we have an ant problem. I feel guilty because I look at them and they're these little societies and they communicate with
little souls. Yeah.
And I see them moving around. And I see them carrying their dead brother, and I'll take spiders out. I'll save cockroaches if I can, man. Look, we're talking about an awareness, a deep understanding that all life has value. That's the fundamental premise behind veganism, and to me, it is the it's the epiphany of pantheism. That's what pantheism means. It's that all life has value because all life is sacred, because all life is divine.
That's a good point. The fact that you said all life is sacred. That's a good way to put it. Remember that line, by the way, because when you talk about pantheism, and especially people who look at it from a naturalistic point of view, I mean, in terms of nature, and they looked at nature is the concert that kind of makes it all work. It's like that ecosystem that we're all a part of, and you want to care for that. You want to respect that because you're a part of that. And if you don't take care of that, it's going to turn around and bite you in the ass, and it's going to, what affects one thing affects everything else. It's kind of like. One bad apple spoils the bunch kind of a thing. And so you do want to respect and love nature, symbiosis, this harmonious symbiosis with life, with other living things. And so it does stand to reason that it does seem to have a natural lead into veganism, for example, or animal rights activism. So those things are, I think, once people get funneled into pantheism, there's not going to be much of a problem for them to be quickly, easily directed into veganism, just like I was. It happened real easy. You didn't have to push me. You didn't have to twist my arm. So I all you had to do was point the way, and I was happy to follow. And so
I'm trying, man. But actually, me and Clint have experienced the exact opposite. It's very difficult.
You mean some people are resistant? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely.
The Big Band page, they're so against it. He got booted. He got expelled from Perry's page, right?
Yeah, I got booted off that page, the Big Pan group on Facebook, because I was bringing up veganism, and I was probably pushing a little bit one day because I was
being a little aggressive.
No, not aggressive. What I was doing,
not aggressive,
that I got banned.
Just posting. Facts,
I posted stuff which was basically in the view of a carnist. So I was being a little bit like.
I remember that.
I guess some
So
people.
that was okay.
I was not really causing trouble, but what my intention was to show the hypocrisy or the contradictory view towards a certain subject, and I was going from their own view, and because I was bringing up their own view in their own words, I got booted out. But
I see.
I remember that.
Yeah,
real quick, guys. I want to tell you, there's a delay on Clint because he's in Australia, so that's why we keep kind of getting jumbled. So like when we figured out like once we finish, give him a minute and then give him a minute.
Okay.
There's a delay. But anyway,
I was wondering about that because I even heard my echo really delayed, I guess. But okay. I was just going to say that whenever trying to express new views to people and introduce them to new ideas, it takes a really you got to really finesse people. It's a whole art form, and you got to really be careful on riding that fence sometimes. And I make the same mistake myself. Nobody's perfect. Sometimes I push people a little too far in my influence because, I want to share my views with people. I don't want to twist their arm. I don't want to force people into believing into my pantheistic views, for example. But I will sometimes firmly express a certain view or my political view, especially my political views. I can get a little aggressive on that one. And a little egoic. But
what it comes down to is the effectiveness.
I still
is it effective? Is it working? Like, are the people actually receptive to it? If not, then it doesn't even matter because you're defeating your own purpose.
Right. I think in terms of my, for example, my YouTube videos and my essays, so far I get a pretty good high turnout. I mean, like a 90% success rate with the people who come through. But you do have your naysayers and your detractors. You're always going to have those trolls that are offended and that try to give you, they're problematic and they try to give you shit. And they give you thumbs downs every chance they get.
Territory of persecution now, because as a vegan, you're gonna see the worst of the worst of people because you are literally attacking their way of life. You're attacking their culture, their tradition, and what they put into their bodies. People are so so self-centered.
Well, to me, those documentaries are a work of art, in my opinion. Especially that last one that you had me watch, What the Health. That is the one that I'm gonna send to my dad. I'm gonna send to my brothers, my mom. I want everybody in my family to watch that. And I want them, and I love animals. So I'm gonna try to influence them the best I can, and that's the perfect way to use what somebody else already spent a lot of time crafting. They did a lot of, they even have music in there, and they have text, and they do all the right things, and they edit it just right. And they show the visuals that you need to see. There's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And hopefully, I'm learning the right way. I'm like I said, I'm never perfect. To share my thoughts, my values, and views with people, and I usually do pretty good.
It's definitely about, I guess, putting forward information in a way which is like non-judgmental, but also challenging at the same time. So for someone to change behavior, you need to challenge like something within them, which shifts their perspective. And if you don't have that challenge, then there
has to be a little bit of a push.
I
feel like the best that we can do is just share the information. The best that we can do
definitely
is just expose them to the information and let their own consciences do the rest. Like once you become aware of what is actually taking place, the health aspect of it, the environmental aspect of it, and just the cruelty that's involved, and people generally, James says this a lot. He makes this point all the time that people are not evil, malignant. This isn't. We're not saying that people are evil. We're saying that people are uninformed and they've been inculcated. They actually do care about animals. Everyone loves it. He's generalizing. Everyone loves animals. Everyone cares about the whales. Everyone, generally speaking, people care about the whales. They care about the apes, they care about the planet. They care about their cats and dogs, but they don't care about pigs. They don't care about cows. They don't care about chickens and sheep and and all the animals that are just being sacrificed for us. So it's like just making the connection. That's why it's such a great tagline. Make the connection. Making the connection.
If they saw that presentation that I got in that last documentary, I really commend the people who put that together, because I thought they did a really nice job of presenting it in it was tame enough to watch, but yet the information was alarming enough to wake you up and get your attention.
Well,
so I really believe
that. Because the same Cowspiracy, same producer, same director.
Right.
I mean,
I like that guy.
Watch Earthlings, watch Cowspiracy, watch What the Health, and that's it. I mean, that's everything that you need is right there in that pack. There's many other documentaries, but those three. You take those three. Originally, it was Forks Over Knives, which is great. It goes into the China study and totally from the health aspect of it. But those three documentaries cover it all. And it's just brilliant. I mean, you want to turn people vegan overnight. Basically, just let them watch those documentaries and let their own minds and their own consciences do the rest.
It sure sped up my graduation. If I had not seen those documentaries and you were telling me all this verbally or through comments or whatever, it would have been a lot longer process.
I've said this before that it just becomes a verbal debate. It just becomes abstract, and it just becomes an argument of words and ideas, and it's not relevant, man. Like, you have to see the pictures. You have to actually hear the pig screaming. You have to be exposed to it. You have to see the information. You have to read the statistics, see the graphs, and then you make that really tangible cognitive connection. Otherwise, I mean, there's no sense in even trying to argue with people. You just gotta put the facts out there, and I believe they literally can't. I've said this many times in discussion and on other podcasts. You literally can't shift your thinking until you're able to, and the only way that you're actually able to is by being exposed to the information, by being exposed to the reality of what's going on. So it's not something that we actually even do. It's just something that we kind of help facilitate by presenting them the information, and they, from whatever angle, if they're concerned about health, if they say that they're environmentalists, we know now that you can't be an environmentalist and not support veganism. It's an oxymoron.
I guess there is a bit of a resistance, though, for people to actually watch these type of documentaries, because they know if they watch it, they're going to have to make change, because I think they are aware that there's something in these documentaries that are going to instigate change or instigate a different perspective.
Probably better to not talk about them too much before they watch them. Just like, hey, I watched this documentary today. Just check this out. Don't give them too much. I actually do that a lot with Earthlings. I'm like, have you seen Earthlings yet? I'm like, it's really, really good documentary. Like check it out. I won't get into. I never say it is the most. It'll upset your entire month. I mean, you'll just be like traumatized. I don't say any of that stuff, because that creates a you have a preconceived notion about it that they think that you're trying to convert them already, and you're trying to influence them. So just share it and expose it. Be like, you care about health, here, watch What the Health. You care about the environment, watch Cowspiracy. It's really interesting information. You care about
mention
animals,
the V word.
What?
Yeah, just don't mention the V word.
Don't say anything about veganism. That's what's funny, because they're not sort of promoted in that way. They don't have the title of Stamp Veganism on them. They're about the subject matter, and then at the end, it always brings it to that and says, now don't contribute. If you want to do something, you can shift to an entirely plant-based lifestyle. And
I think that's why it works, is because it's not put out there as a vegan film. It's not marketed as veganism, because there is a lot of the stigma around veganism for certain reasons.
This is going to happen. I mean, we talked about this yesterday, that you've got these preconceived notions people have, and they're gonna prejudge before they have all the facts straight. And that's what we got to avoid. So we have to represent just the best example that we can on every level, because they will do that. Like, oh, you're a vegan, you care about, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Are those shoes leather? Well, what about this? What about that? They'll try to, pinpoint and fault you in every way.
If that happens to me now, if I'm having a discussion with someone now and they say, oh, so you're vegan, I'll be like, no, I'm actually anti-carnist. And they're like, so what's that?
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's because essentially it's only a label anyway. Like, even though I was eating meat, I was eating animal products. Like I said earlier, like my core is that of which coincides with the vegan philosophy. So essentially, that doesn't need to be named, but that's what I am.
This is what I want to get into. This is why it's so important, Clint, that we talk about this, because people are going to try and discredit you, but it's like at the same time, I'm not just promoting veganism. I'm promoting something bigger. I'm saying God is the universe, man.
Yeah.
And if you believe this and if you become aware of this, then these are this is the natural progression of how you end up living your life. You end up caring about the environment. You end up treating all life forms with love and respect. You end up respecting yourself and caring for your health and trying to do things in balance because you have this understanding, this awareness. So I'm coming at it like from that almost like that spiritual approach, and I'm saying, I'm not telling everyone to be vegan. I'm sharing my information about my worldview, my vision of how things.
Yeah, sure. So that's
I'm sharing my vision of how things actually transpire and what's unfolding right now, and it's a very powerful sort of comprehensive epistemology, an epistemological understanding. So it's that approach, and we can talk about that a little bit. I mean, I've been successful in some ways. In other ways, it's just like hitting a brick wall. I really am looking. Actually, Northwest Veg has asked me to speak at some of their meetings, so I'm gonna try and get involved with that more. I've been to a lot of vegan meetups here, and I've talked about pantheism, and I've discussed biopan. I've got my biopan meetup that's this Saturday, and I'm going to meet with this woman that's affiliated with them. So I'm doing all that I can to just sort of infiltrate the vegan movement with pantheism and infiltrate pantheism with veganism. That's my angle.
There seems to be like a huge percentage of vegans who are atheists. How do you see that? Why do you think that's part of?
Why is that the demographic you mean, or what, or why, or how do I approach that?
Yeah,
reverse.
If they're atheists, well, I say I'm an atheist as well. Like, I believe in the Abrahamic God. I don't believe in an anthropomorphic deity. I don't believe there is a man in the sky that created everything. I actually love and respect nature, and I revere the natural world, and I care about the planet. And my spirituality is more along the lines of the Gaia hypothesis, So, and then they say, I feel that way too. Like, that's exactly what I believe, and and then they'll come up with some new age stuff, and they'll talk about Buddhism, and they'll talk about whatever it is, because that's all they know. That their forms of spirituality are just sort of relegated to what's been popularized in our culture. And I'll say, actually, you don't need any of that stuff. Like, the truth is, I could take you through it right now. Like we know that something created all of this, and we know scientifically it's nature, and we know that we're all a part of nature. We're all products of nature. We know that life is an interconnected system, and that what we do to others, we're doing to ourselves. I mean, this is pantheism. And they're like, oh, I didn't know there was a word for that. Like, that's cool. And then I'll introduce them to my groups and my writings, and there it is. And it's like, and actually, the truth is, like, when you start to consider all life is sacred, well, then how should we treat other life forms? And then we talk about veganism, and we say, well, see, the vegan movement is entirely based on compassion and nonviolence, and we're seeking to preserve and protect life. I mean, isn't that what you care about as an environmentalist? Isn't that what you're meditating about as a Buddhist? Isn't that what Jesus taught? Is to love and accept others and forgive, and if God has the hairs of your head numbered and not a sparrow falls to the ground without him knowing about it, he owns the cattle on 1,000 fields. Well, then, like, if this is how, we're treating God's creations, this is according to the theist perspective, this is how we're treating God's creations, if this is what we're doing, and this mentality actually bleeds over into racism and sexism and the idea that other beings are inferior. Well, what is your religion really about? Like how loving is your God, and how pious are you if you're contributing to this and you're helping to support this Holocaust that's taking place? So there's a conversation right there, and that's sort of the trajectory. But it's dependent upon the person that I'm talking to, whoever I'm talking to.
Sort of brings up a really good point about, I guess, intersectionality, how most exploitation, oppression, and discrimination is interconnected. And for me, one of the reasons why I rejected religion and I guess like authority as well, and I guess other forms of oppression, is because I just see the ridiculousness in it, and the interconnection between, say, violence and religion and concepts. I just had to exclude that, or just reject that from my life. And
it's fascinating. It's his own spirituality that led him to all this, guys. It was Clint's sort of the raising of his consciousness and his own sort of spiritual practices are what led to that. And it's a great example of it. And I guess the same could be said of me. I think for me it was more intellectual and sort of emotional. But of course, my spirituality has always been completely engrossed in the natural world and in spending time in nature.
And when I was
listening to the birds,
when I was reading
being outdoors.
When I was reading your Dreaming of Portals, I got a strong sense that even from an early age that you had a huge emotional attachment to animals, and that you cared about animals, because it's very, very apparent in that Dreaming of Portals. I think you were like, gosh, 8 or 10? Like you really expressed a concern for the well-being of turtles, trees, all that, and so.
I don't know how far you read into Portals, but that was a real incident that I just kind of
I know
for the story, but that really happened. I found a snapping turtle and then my uncle pushed me out of the way, and he got a shovel and he took it down to the creek and had my dad go down there with a gun and just fucking shot it.
Oh, shit.
And I blame myself, and it was the impetus for so much of that writing, because I said if I would have never told him, then he wouldn't have killed it, And I rescued so many turtles after that too, and I never told my uncle again. I never told anybody if I found an animal. I just took care of it. And I didn't go an adult. I just took care of it myself. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to tell a little bit of a story about my childhood and I guess my experience with religion. It's pretty funny because I know from a young age I was almost like so anti-religion. I went to a Catholic primary school, and we had to do mass. We had to learn about the Bible, and I remember I was maybe about 8 years old, and we're going through all these stories about I guess the myths and the creation stories and Noah's Ark and having the animals on the boat. And I just remember how I felt hearing those ridiculous stories, and from a really early age, I would be such a little demon in church. We used to go into what's it called when you say your sins? Confession. And there used to be a little a light sensor that would be on the floor. So when you're in confession, people would know that you are inside. So, when I was about 8 years old at school, and I would walk into there and I'd just tell the priest some lies just to, say my sins. But I would be sitting there tapping out these songs on the light so that people outside would be laughing in the church. And I would be scraping Satan stars on the chairs in church, like with a pen, and I was just such a little like rebel kid, and it set me up for I guess that like search for what's actually real in like what God is. And when I used to come to like Easter and these religious days, like Good Friday, I would deliberately eat meat because I wasn't meant to. I basically did everything that the church,
such a little rebel.
Yeah, that the church told me not to. And I was actually like looking back at it, it was pretty hilarious, but it actually sort of like instigated a lot of my curiosity about, where did the universe come from if it wasn't from this man in a book and all that sort of stuff. So like for me, yeah, like that started like really early as well. And I think it really shaped my like inquisitive sort of nature.
You're making me think that, if someone, if someone told me I had to be a Christian, I would have never pursued Christianity. If someone told me that pantheism is the only truth, it's there's nothing else, and it's absolutely reality, and I have to accept and believe it, I would probably not believe it, and I would go the other way. If someone told me,
exactly,
you need to be a vegan, you have to be a vegan to save the planet, you have to be a vegan to not get cancer for the sake of your health, you have to be a vegan if you care about other animals, I would say, but I like meat. I would probably on every stage I would probably rebel and reject it. And in my experience, much like yours, it was organic. I was on my own. In every way I was pursuing these things, just very organically, and it wasn't because of any authority.
I remember
that's very important in terms of how we present these ideas and how we communicate with others in discussion.
I remember when I was in the 11th grade, I was, and I forget why I was doing this, but for some reason I was trying to draw the Abrahamic version of what God would look like. And I actually struggled with it for quite a while. When I was drawing his face, I had trouble every time I tried to create an expression, whether he was sad or sort of sad or happy or angry, whatever I did, couldn't get satisfied, and I kept. It finally became what is the the typical traditional view of the man in the beard, and so there was that.
Michelangelo's the Sistine Chapel.
That cliche image. But then it sparked something. It awakened something in me as I was sitting there trying to understand or discover what God looked like. It finally hit me. I don't just want to know what God looks like. I wanted to know what God was. Like, what is that? Because I knew he wasn't human. So it really awakened this thing in me. And that's one of the first things that I remember that set me on that pantheistic path to discover, if that God doesn't exist, if the Abrahamic God doesn't exist, then what did create this? What is responsible for all this? And what does it all mean? What is it all leading to? And so it just started awakening all these like bubbles in my head, all these questions. And it just let out a plethora of thought. I mean, I was just like, it was like a flood. I was just like processing all these, and I wanted to learn so much like about science, about history, and I just soaked it up like a sponge, like year after year. Like, man, I wish I had had that awakening earlier on in school, because I kind of blew off school. I was a daydreamer. I was always staring out the window because I have a right side. I'm a right side thinker, very artsy. So I was just constantly daydreaming. But I finally hit a point where I was just like, God, I want to know all there is about, physical science, relativity, quantum physics, and the history of man, even the Bible. I would try to, our family wasn't all that religious, but I found myself reading the Bible with a fine-tooth comb, at least the first 5 books of the Bible, in the beginning, Exodus and all that. And then a lot of the Gospels later on, I would read and I would compare, all the Gospels, how there was some incongruence and offsets, of course. But I would just really try to saturate myself with any kind of information I could. And my parents had bought us an encyclopedia when we were really young. That was our internet. back then, because this is way before the internet. So we had those encyclopedias, and me and my brothers, every time we wanted to know something, we went to those read encyclopedias. Now you can just quickly type it up. If you want to know where Tom Petty is from, you just click it in. But back then, if you wanted to know where Tom Petty was from, you just didn't get to know. But most of the stuff, if I wanted to know something, I would encyclopedias, or we would go to the library, or we would see things on TV, or we would interact, and hear things from other, your friends and family, of course. Now, unfortunately, a lot of my family, because we were raised in the South, they have that Southern mentality, which is a lot of a, far on the far right, mentality, very Republican mentality. And so, unfortunately, I had kind of some bad influence there, but, nobody's going to be in the perfect situation, of course. It's not going to be a perfect nurturing ground to completely nourish, complete perfect philosophical thought. But anyway, that was some of the things that kind of started leading me. It was actually my artwork and the fact that I wanted to know. I just reached that age where I just it's time that I went on that quest, and I wanted to know what was responsible for everything. Why is it all here? How long has it been here? Does it have an origin? Is it going to have an end? So I was just really intrigued by all that. And a lot of people don't actually have time to ask all those questions, or don't even care. They don't have that interest for some reason, and they get too busy in their daily lives. So, they just don't have time to sit back and reflect on those type of things. They can't afford that. They don't have that luxury. So I was lucky that
time to contemplate like that openness in our lives to contemplate is it's almost a ubiquitous theme among pantheists, is that many of us have had, I guess we've had that luxury or the curse of being alone a lot, and having a lot of time to ourselves to meditate and contemplate, and many are introverted. That's true. So that there's a commonality there for sure. Clint, I'm very curious about and thank you guys for expressing all that. And I love hearing the backstory of us as pantheists. I'm still interested in your sort of what you would classify yourself, your form of spirituality as you were becoming a pantheist, with sort of a new age, like a combination of sort of Eastern traditions, like Buddhism, with transcendental meditation and the idea of I'm not real sure. It's kind of still fuzzy, and I would just like to know a little more detail about that and what led up to pantheism for you.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I tend to. Well, I've never really gravitated towards any specific religion or sort of philosophical idea. What I've tended to do since I was around 18, 19, which is when I sort of started my my quest for knowledge, in the philosophical sense. I would basically just search out ideas, good, strong philosophical ideas, and test them. And I actually went to it was a, I guess you could call it experimental, but it was a practical philosophy course, and it was set up by the the School of Economics in England, but there was a course in Melbourne, and I did that for 2 years. And basically what it was I guess you get together in a group and you have all these philosophical ideas from all types of areas, ancient philosophy and Eastern traditions, even Christianity and different religions, but it wouldn't be included in a religious context. It was just the core kind of ideas, and it was grounded in a certain meditation practice, which was based on connecting with the five senses. So you would connect your five senses to the five elements, and you would still your mind to the point where you were functioning at the highest level you could at that present moment. And then you would discuss these ideas and these philosophies.
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's such a great.
But from it's kind of like Buddhist, but it was really interesting. And that time in my life was really pivotal because I started meditating every single day at dusk and dawn. So I would see the sunrise, I'd see the sunset, and that was actually a catalyst as well for going vegetarian at the time. So I was attending this experiential kind of practical philosophy course, and every week we would get like a test, and it was almost like a test in applying a certain philosophical idea. And so each week I'd go home and I would like test out this idea, and so many things happened. It was actually like really mind expanding, like sort of psychedelic. And I was kind of like playing these games with nature, with my own consciousness and the world around me, and including
great.
meditation.
I love this. It's such a cool way to facilitate this awareness, this understanding, and it doesn't involve drugs. It actually doesn't involve hallucinations and psychedelics.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows you that we can go about this in a completely holistic, naturalistic way that doesn't involve ingesting substances.
Yeah. But in saying that, the meditation practice and the sort of learning that I was doing in that time did, I guess, change my brain in a way. Like it set off different new connections and stuff like that. But yeah, it was around that time where this sort of trajectory sort of pushed me into like exploring consciousness and God. But I can't lie, there was experience that I had, like psychedelic experiences, which definitely led to an expanded view as well. But I think I've sort of mentioned this to you before, like psychedelics were not the actual full reason, but it was a tool, just like meditation was a tool. And for me at the time, the meditation was the foundation for everything. So I would say, like, if you were to ask me what my religious or my like philosophical basis is, it's meditation. It's like simply.
So it's mindfulness and really getting grounded.
Yeah.
Aligning your mind, body, and spirit. It's very important. There's many different ways to do this. I think it's brilliant, man. It's such a great sort of testimony. It would take too long to explain mine, and I'm sure I don't want to take up too much time. But let's just say that my experience with Christianity has dominated my spiritual life, most of my life, and it was the deconstruction of Christianity that led to my atheism / agnosticism. And then just really quickly, I'll just say it was Paul Harrison's book, Elements of Pantheism, and his website that actually put a name and a label to it. And I recognize this is what I'd always really believed. Now that I no longer believed in a transcendental deity, that like what do we believe? And then, with all the focus, the emphasis on nature, it all clicked and it made sense. So my transition into pantheism, or my discovering of pantheism, is not as exciting and as poetic as yours, or even as Gaius's. But like I'd like to feel that what I'm representing and what I'm trying to do with my pantheistic awareness is meaningful and full of relevance, and I'm trying to really make an impact and do something with it, other than just have some online social club. Which is what the WPM represents. Really, it's not. It doesn't have a presence in the world, and that's what we're trying. What I would hope that all of us are trying to sort of rectify, is put pantheism on the map and make it a legitimate real world movement.
I think, just sort of going back to how I like figured out that I was pantheist. Like, obviously, I just sort of mentioned my philosophical or my spiritual sort of grounding. But I just happened to be online one day and I was reading something about pantheism, and I'm like, shit, that's me. I'm a pantheist. And it wasn't, I wasn't searching for it. I wasn't like Googling what I am or like what coincides with my sort of philosophical like ideals. It just happened to be one day I stumbled across what pantheism is about, and that's me.
Isn't it amazing? There are no pantheist documentaries. There are no celebrities or widely known philosophers or speakers that are promoting it or teaching it. And it doesn't have a presence. It doesn't have and yet it exists in all of these separate movements and all these individuated.
Just recently, there was that actor, the actor who played Spider-Man, who was in an interview, and he finally mentioned it. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was great. I posted that everywhere. I was like, yeah, it's finally someone coming out and saying it. And I have that list of my the League of Humanity, I call them. With all of these scientists and authors and speakers. And philosophical
I love
gurus.
that.
They're atheists and they're skeptics on there, and they're biologists and physicists and scientists and people just.
Yeah, I love that list. They
all represent like if I were to try and just sort of institute this, if I was to try to restructure society, and these people would be at the top, they would be the leaders, and that Emily and Gary and James. And Ruby Roth are all on there. Those are the vegan activists and animal welfare spokesmen and the advocates of veganism. And they're great, and they represent that side of it as well. So what I'd like to do, I'm not sure how much longer you guys are going to.
I was actually trying to let you know that I gotta go.
Okay, yeah, I kind of feel that. I get the vibe. So that's what I was gonna say. We can wrap it up, or Gaius, we can say goodbye to you, and we can keep going. Clint, I don't see your kids around yet. So
I've kind of been waiting for them to charge in the door, but they're not here. So if you want to keep going, I'm
I'll keep going with Clint, and we'll just bid Gaius farewell, and thank you for. I meant to tell you yesterday, man. I really do appreciate your insight and just what you bring to the table with your experiences, and you have a very unique sort of intellectual and philosophical take on it. And the fact that you're an artist and you look at things, from what's the word, man? From a right brain, as you said, you're very right brain. And that's cool. And you look at things creatively and artistically, and it's important to bring that aesthetic and that sort of that character to the pantheist movement. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thanks for your contributions, and don't worry about the questions, man. And I'm glad you're with us, and we just need to combine our strengths and our talents and skills and abilities, and really try to make a difference in terms of veganism and in terms of educating the public about what pantheism is. And the next episode is going to be all about biopan, because I feel like we need to really come together and say, hey, if you guys have been with me for a while now, like let's actually decide, let's make some significant steps to support it and actually like embrace this codification if you agree with it. I think you've been a supporter of mine for a long time, guys. So I think it's time that we
and it was good.
Powers unite.
It was good meeting you, Clint, for the first time. So and getting to hear a lot of your insights.
Yeah, you too, man. I was just going to actually say, it's nice to meet you too. But I want to check out your artwork because I'm an artist as well. So
that's right. I totally forgot about that. Yes, we're all artists. Look at that. There's commonality. We're all artists.
Yeah, I'll have it. You'll have to give him a link to my my WordPress site, which is basically gaius.wordpress.com. And I have a little bit of my some samples, like an art page, like a tab. You click on the tab and it'll show at least some samples that I recently kind of threw up there. And I'm hoping to get a lot more because that's just a small little sample of some of the things I've done. And I hope to get some more of the serious work that I did, because a lot of that actually is my like I used to do a lot of portrait work in oil, for a living. I would do portraits of people and their pets, but I also have some creative stuff in there and some like stuff that I would do for storyboards or graphic novels, kind of a thing. So,
yeah, nice.
But you'll have breed. Pantheists are a unique breed, man. I've learned this. That we have a very specific combination of certain qualities and characteristics and traits, certain life experiences that we all share. Go ahead.
Give him also the link to my my YouTube page. But you'll find that anyway. If you just go to my WordPress site, you'll see all my links.
Well, anyway. Now you guys we're all members of my Pantheist Vegan support group, so we can connect right there. I mean, Clint is, there's only 20 at this point, and I kind of like it that way. But there's 20 people who are both pantheist and vegan, and now you're among them guys. So we can focus our energies there, man, and like post stuff, and that's also for support. So if you have any questions, if you need if you're in a debate and you need to call on some friends to help you out and stuff, that's what it's for, man. And we're sharing information and trying to sort of edify and encourage one another. Because it's not easy, man. We're up against a lot. There's a lot of resistance. And,
it's a nice thought.
It's all about solidarity, man. Let's keep it going. Let's keep things.
All right.
Keep the channels open.
Before I sign off, I have to ask, what do I click? Do I click leave call? Do I hit the red phone?
Yeah, you just hang up. Basically, just hang up. Yeah.
So I just click that. Okay. All right. It was fun.
Yep. All right, guys. Okay, take care, man. Have a good night. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
All right. Bye-bye. Yep.
Done.
Gaius Cerilius. He goes back to
it's good,
ether. What's that?
Yeah, he's great. It's good.
Yeah, he's a cool guy, right?
Yeah.
He's very very intelligent and very thoughtful, and he's got a lot to offer. He's kind of been in the shadows, He does his own thing. He's not very involved in the Facebook groups and stuff. He just kind of remains sort of this distant, kind of eclectic figure. But he's also introverted, and so he's not the kind that like you and me, we'll get right in the middle of it, and just the debates and everything, and we'll get kicked out of groups, and he tends to be much more reserved and thoughtful about it, and probably smarter than we are.
Actually, I just requested to join Big Pan again, and I got accepted. So I'm in there.
We'll see how that goes. You got to watch you're on probation, buddy.
Yeah.
Watch your behavior.
I just keep it on the down low for now.
Keep it low key. Yeah. But wow, we gotta really we gotta address this, man. We have to. Maybe the Pantheist Vegan Support Group is the beginning of it. I want there to be this this merger, this understanding. I feel like I'm standing in the gap between these two houses, these two sort of families, and I'm like, you're kind of each doing your own independent thing, but you don't realize that at the core, on the foundational level, we want the same things. And I feel that way about the atheist movement, the anti-theist, the new atheist movement, about humanism, secular humanism. I feel that way about paganism, neo-paganism, and Druidry, and many within the New Age circles. I feel like the tie that binds us all is our biology, and we can't live without food and water and shelter and companionship, and
health.
And health, our health, a sustainable earth, and a healthy living system, whether it's our bodies or the ecosystems, the environments that surround us. There's nothing more important than that. So I don't care what you believe about the universe or what your spiritual and metaphysical views are. Those things that I just mentioned are ubiquitous across the board, and that's where we need to focus our time and energy and attention, is on our sustainable future. It's the survival of our species, man. At this point, with so much corruption, political corruption, and so much evil and violence, and the human race needs to evolve, man. And I believe that veganism and pantheism, and specifically biopan, is on the cusp. We're on the precipice of that evolution, man. And I'm trying to unite us all and lead that charge. So, help me do this and spread the word and spread the message to everyone. Tell every vegan about Biopan, and tell every pantheist about veganism, and let's bring it together, man.
Try. I've tried on a few occasions. It's not always successful.
Apes together, strong. I just watched the Planet of the Apes. The Rise of the Planet of the Apes and then Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It's true, man. That's I don't care if people think I'm the self-appointed guru or whatever. That is my role. I'm just like Caesar, trying to unite the apes and free us all from the oppression and the enslavement of each other and of other life forms.
Yeah. Well, I think there's always going to be that environmentalist sort of green approach on all the systems that are being damaged. Like it's plain to see. It's like tangible. There's scientific evidence, and you can see it in every country in the world. There's disasters, there's floods, there's like all new, like the intensity of shit has just increased. So I think a lot of people are going to start turning to more environmental action. Like you hear a lot of it now, like especially with Cowspiracy.
Because of the climate change issue.
People are almost sort of getting pushed in a certain direction because of what's happening in the environment, and that is leading into sort of veganism and I guess like a respect for the natural world. And that's something that we can focus on. It's like the reverence for that natural system.
Absolutely. So we come at it from different angles, but we have a shared ethic, a shared ideal. I like to boil it down to biocentrism. I say this is a biocentric philosophy. This is a biocentric. It's life-centered, essentially. We're putting life and living organisms in our biology first. If your philosophy or your spirituality, I've said this before, whatever religious institution you're committed to, whatever concepts or ideals you have, they're not life-centered.
It's frozen.
What's that? Can you hear me? I think you froze up as well. We'll see if we can get you back. But Australian connection, man. Clint is like on the other side of the world right now. So
sorry, man. That was that froze on me there.
You might have froze up, or I might have froze up from your perspective. But the broadcast probably it might have still been recording. So we'll just
cool.
See what happens when we. But sometimes
I didn't hear what you said.
I was just
the last part of that.
I was just rambling. Look, man, I appreciate the time and bring a great element to this. A really cool perspective, and I feel like with Chandler's podcast and with this podcast with mine, can really make a difference and start influencing people, because these podcasts serve as like a resource, and we're just we're spouting out all this stuff, but it's powerful information. It's a certain mentality and an ethic and ideal that we're promoting. We're representing something, and so we can. It directs people to our websites, to our books, to our writings, to our artwork. It just serves as a medium, like a voice to express these ideas. And I was saying before that just so many people are already on this trajectory. Jason Silva, you get Sam Harris and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye and Richard Dawkins and the late Christopher Hitchens.
Yeah.
Like, believe it or not, I mean, as anti-theist as he was, I mean, this man helped me so much to understand that you don't have to
have some
believe in the traditional gods to critical thinking. Of course, you don't have to believe in the traditional gods to understand that you can have a transcendent experience, that there is such a thing as the numinous and the religious experience, and it can be a completely naturalistic one. So it's religious naturalism is really what we're promoting here, a completely scientific and biological and tangible way to connect with something that is greater than us and is older than us and is supersedes all and permeates everything. And I'm talking about the Omnia, nature itself, what I call the Omnia.
I think that's what people need is the tangible experience of actually, touching it, smelling it, seeing it.
Right.
When someone's offered
spirituality that is that is communicated and conveyed to us through our senses, rather than just believing in an invisible a construct. Following our intuition there is something to be said for that, absolutely. But this idea of that spirituality is this intangible thing that can never be understood, and it can never really be reached, and it can't be seen. Well, I mean, I see God every day in my animals, in the tree outside that's blooming and blossoming right now. It's so beautiful. That's where I see God. I see divinity in nature. That's what pantheism
but
is.
I guess you'd probably understand that a vegan pantheist is a threat to a lot of the systems on this planet.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a threat to Republicans. It's a threat to conservative Christianity, to fundamentalism.
Yeah.
I mean, we are up against a lot, but we have a lot. We have a lot of people on our side too, even if not by name or by label. They are
I guess
us.
If you look at it as what a vegan pantheist is, there is so many systems in the world that if everybody was to become vegan and sort of look at the world through a pantheist view, it would eliminate all these industries. It would eliminate all these religions. It'd burn the house down.
I've been saying this for years, man. I mean, it is the answer. It is the answer to all of the problems that we face, and this is what's needed at this time. I mean, if I'm not able to see this come to pass in my lifetime, I hope that others will pick up where I left off and carry on the work. I mean, I'm gonna, whether it's me or someone else. I mean, somebody has to lead this and unite us all. Our survival depends upon it, man. I feel like they say the studies and the information that we have now is that we're past the tipping point of sustainability on this planet. That the population explosion, the birth rate, the growth, all of it, and that's why in Biopan we have a comprehensive system that addresses all of these. That I'm anti-natalist. I'm not imposing it on others. I mean, you have kids yourself, but I'm anti-natalist for a reason, and it's all involved. It's incorporated in the Venus Project. The Zeitgeist movement is the sort of political, social aspect of this. Pantheism is the philosophical, spiritual aspect of this. Veganism is the sort of the activist side of it that involves these industries and the idea of doing no harm and nonviolence. It comes from the Jainist tradition and ahimsa, and so it's all multifaceted, man. And so what I'm saying is you don't have to call yourself a biopan, but if we don't sort of consolidate all of these ethical systems, all of these sustainability movements, if we don't unite and actually stand for something and make it a comprehensive codified model, we're going to continue to just be scattered and diversified and split up. And the point is there's strength in unity, there's strength in numbers. But we're all pulling in all these different directions, man. Like I feel like Xavier many times, Professor X, trying to unite all the misfits, trying to get all the mutants together. And I'm searching the world. I'm using the what's that thing called? This cerebral. He puts on the helmet. That's what I feel like. I'm trying to seek out and find all these luminaries and these really influential, powerful, poetic people who have the same creative vision and bring them all together. It's the League of Justice, man. That's why I call it the League of Humanity. The League of Justice. And I'll step out of the way and just let it run its course and let other people take over once I get it together, once I get it going. It's not about this isn't an ego trip, man. This isn't about me. It's about the earth. It's about the animals. It's about the human race. It's about our own humanity, the evolution of our species, ethically and morally. We need to evolve. We need to come together. So I need help. I wish there were others doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Let it be somebody else.
We kind of need, people these days, they want, slick presentations, nice soundtracks, cool documentaries, sexy looking things to look at and to download, and they want it now. We almost need some type of presentation for Biopan, something that is accessible for people, mainstream people, not mainstream, but
and I'm learning a lot from Jason Silva about these shots of awe that he does. I don't have the technical capabilities or the resources to make fancy YouTube videos like that.
Yeah,
this is the best I can do right now. With doing a podcast and with my book and the website and the articles and everything. But I know what you mean is that it needs to be for this
it compacted
sort of this attention. Yeah, this attention deficit disorder culture that we have that only can absorb information. They're continuously multitasking. They can only absorb information. Little sound bites at a time. That's fine. I can do that. I mean, we're running on this is 3.5 hours or something now. It's only the really contemplative, meditative people, the old farts that are sitting in their house and they got nowhere to go. They're just they don't really have a life that they're going to listen to this, but then they can't do anything about it. So we need. I know what you're saying. We need a presentable format where we can get this information out there in short bursts that'll grab people's attention and speak to their heart and soul. I agree. So any suggestions you have or the listeners, I'm totally open to it, man.
I don't have any ideas at the moment, but
I do think that incorporating aesthetics is very important. Like you as an artist,
totally.
Gaius as an artist, me recognizing the value of symbols and using music and just my list of pantheist-related videos. I have over 120 some videos, and maybe one or two of them are labeled pantheistic, or they're all coming from these different angles, but I recognize them as pantheistic. That represents something. Like you can go down that list and just spend a week watching those videos, and it'll bring you right up to speed with everything that I've learned, everything the way that I've educated myself, and the understanding that I have, this sort of multifaceted, holistic view of things, with incorporating a systems model mindset in my outlook and my ontology on life. It's all there. So I do have those videos that anyone can go to and watch, and it's also linked up on my website. So, but I'm drawing from other sources. I don't have something that is specifically labeled biopantheism. So that's what's needed. I need my own that holds that identity and represents it in sort of an authentic,
for sure,
comprehensive way.
A lot of what I do in my day job is freelance graphic designing for people, and essentially what I'm doing is branding them. What's that? Basically what I do is I logos and designs for musicians or record labels or festivals, and it's essentially promoting their brand or what they're on about, their person, their identity, their music. And so I'm just coming from a perspective of getting something out there that catches people's attention. Marketing in a sense. I hate that word. It's not the best word, but
no, it's true. Though. We have to market ourselves. We have to sell the idea. We have to make it flashy and memorable and appeal to people's senses. It's not only their needs, but also their sort of their aesthetic. Their craving for a certain style, a certain image. I feel like I've done that, but I don't have a PR program. I don't have a marketing group. I don't have I don't have anybody working for me. I'm doing it all on my own. So anything you can contribute if you want to put the
Yeah,
symbol
for sure.
out there, and, like spread, the website, talk about it with people, and create some art that represents this. I mean, you see what's right behind me.
Yeah.
That's
And I see a lot of the artworks that you throw up on your posts, and a lot of the images you use.
I always incorporate good, strong visuals, because it's very important to have the information right alongside with the visual representation of it. I always add an image, and I've always told people this: if you're going to post something, always include an image so that you engage with people, and you sort of allow them to perceive it with both their left brain and their right brain, and the two hemispheres combine. Then you have a real understanding and inspiration that.
I think that's probably why a lot of, obviously every religion, every sort of movement or like cultural group has, a symbols, like, some sort of identifying thing.
Yeah, and absolutely.
It's because
it's very like important. It resonates with people because a symbol can encapsulate an idea, a tradition, a feeling, a belief system, and it does all that. Just visually, it just speaks to you visually. Language.
I think my kids. Yeah, I think they'll be back soon, but I'm gonna have to maybe call it because my stomach's starting to growl.
Oh, no worries, man. No worries. I could do this all night. This is what I do. But I do appreciate the time. I mean, thank you, and it's been really cool. It's been informative and enjoyable. Let's do it again. And just share this, once I get this all set up, share this with your groups and with your friends and stuff like that. And let's just keep talking, man. And I'll definitely have you on again. I appreciate the time, Clint. Thank you for sharing
for sure.
so much of your perspective.
Yeah, I'm glad we finally got there after so many attempts.
This is something long in coming. We've been trying to get this together for a long time, but it's totally possible. So just let's keep in touch, man, and be safe. And I appreciate I appreciate your input, and thanks, man. I appreciate you. So just be well. Tell your kids I said hi. Yeah. And let's just keep in touch, man. Okay. Thanks for your time.
Cheers. Will do, man. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. And all that. Cheers. See you.
Have a good night. Thank you, brother.
Bye.
This is our source. This is our life. This is who we are. Please visit our website for more information about this life-changing philosophy. You can also join our Facebook groups by following the links provided in the description box below, and find fellowship with others who share these same ethics and ideals. Whoever you are not alone. The whole universe resides within you. Now and forever, in nature we trust.